Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Good morning. Welcome, one and all, to a Morning Dew edition of the Dew Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobler, of course.
Hello.
I had to point my mic the right way. I was talking right over it. I was hitting my mic in the ear. You know, it was great. My voice was just grazing past it. I gotta. There you go. Beautiful.
Yeah. One of the hardest parts of this gig is mic technique.
Yeah. Yeah, gotta learn that mic technique. Gotta massage that mic. Gotta treat it like you love it. Hey everybody, well, it's great to see you all here. Nice crowd to start the day. 684 on YouTube and Twitter, 521 over on Rumble. That's what we love to see. How many of you guys stayed up and watched the JD Vance speech? My guess is just about zero. So we're gonna cover that today. I didn't put that in the thumbnail because at the time I made the graphics, I thought, wait, what if this speech is boring and we don't end up talking much about it? But it wasn't. It wasn't. And so we are going to be getting to that as well as a bunch of other topics.
I texted you last night. I assumed it was over.
He went on late.
I know.
So we are planning on streaming the Trump speech tonight. I wish I had a time to give you now. Join our Substack. This is a reason to join our Substack. Join our newsletter for free. Even if you can't join as a paid member, if you join for free, you'll get an email telling you when we're going to go live every time we do. And that really comes in handy on a day like today when I don't really know a time for the Trump speech yet. I'm assuming they're going to finalize it as the day goes on. I would imagine to be about around 9 Eastern. But last night, J.D. Vance didn't go on until like 10:30, which is kind of crazy to put a major speaker like that so late, because you're really shutting a lot of people out that way. Then again, this is really more of a central time zone kind of campaign. Like the people who, like the only people who really need to hear that are the people in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan. Although a lot of Michigan is in the Eastern time zone. When I went to a film festival in Western Michigan, in Muskegon, which is right on the lake, that is like the very western border of the Eastern time zone. And so in that town, in the middle of the summer, or not in the middle of the summer, as the solstice approaches, which is when I was there. I was there in like late May. It didn't get dark until like 10:30 at night. Like it would be 10 at night, and it would be like twilight in the summer because it's on the very edge of the Eastern time zone. Right. Yeah.
Are we doing this eel thing?
Oh, I forgot about the eel thing.
I have it up on YouTube.
All right, yeah, let's watch it. Let's watch it. Let's watch it because we were viciously attacked.
We were viciously attacked by, it's always the people closest to you.
Yes.
Who betray you in this way. So this is a former friend of show, Ian Puddick, calling us out because we didn't want to suck down eel, or I didn't. Keaton was not presented the opportunity. So let's see what he had to say.
Russell, greetings from London. This is what you're missing out, and it's not the British summer. We actually have a day of sunshine. We haven't had any yet, so this is a first here in London. I'm with Bradley. Bradley's staying with us as a guest, and Bradley is the producer of the Katie Halper Show. Anyway, Russell, you chickened out, and rightly and understandably so. So we're now at Barney's Pie and Mash Shop in Walthamstow in East London. And Bradley's going to have some steamed eels on pie and mash. So we'll venture in and order and have a mug of hot tea, and we'll fill you in on what you are missing. All right, round two. So we're in round two. So we've come in. So this is that right? Can I film? I'm just going to film. Is that right?
I mean, it's cleaner than I expected.
So this is Barney's Pie and Mash in Walthamstow, E17.
You tell it's a real popular spot.
So we've ordered.
So
we've got something very traditional.
They're all lining up for that
English
jelly deal.
We've got 2 beef pies, mince pies, some mashed potato, and liquor. The liquor is green, and the reason it's green is because it's made with parsley. So here's the pies. So I've broken open the pies. I've put a ton of pepper in them. Loads of vinegar.
Oh God!
And then we've got our steamed or
okay, I'm sorry, man. Does that look appetizing to you?
We should have done this in the morning. We should have done this at the. We should have saved this for a 2:00 show, like far between meal times.
I mean, look, I can't speak to the taste, but aesthetically, this looks like somebody threw up in a bowl. I mean, it just does. It does not look like something you'd want to eat.
Yeah.
I cannot speak to how it tastes. I mean, mashed potatoes, you really can't fuck that up. But yeah, that green liquor thing is not looking too appetizing.
Few deals. And right, so you need to try some of the eel, and this is for Russell and Keaton, who chickened out when they came over.
Some of this?
Yeah.
Well, Keaton won't even go to Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I won't even have lobster in Maine.
Oh, well, that's selling it. That's really making me want some. Yeah. Now I see I was mistaken.
Yeah.
All right. It's good, isn't it? Isn't it good? Russell chickened out.
Keep the camera on him.
He's like, all right. I did it. That's going to be me after I get my kayaking certification by going upside down in the fucking kayak.
Yeah. Right.
All right. I did it. Yeah.
You guys need to, courage up and give this a try.
Man up. Man up. Keaton, Russell, next time. Thank you. And if you're in London, you want pie and mash, this is very traditional. Young Tom over here comes in at 5 o'clock every morning and makes all the pies. Make them fresh every day, don't you? Every day. It's all made fresh. Old family recipe, and it's relatively inexpensive, and it's really good. And it's part of traditional London. Support it.
And if you see the sign, takeaway of the year.
Bless him.
Yep.
Thank you for watching.
I assume, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they call it takeaway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, man, I said already next time I go over, I'll do it. But yeah, Ian, I don't think that video sold it the way you think it did. He seemed pretty skeptical of it. He seemed more like somebody who had done a dare than someone who was enjoying their food.
Yeah, seemed like someone who was getting put up for free in your house.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
All right. That did not look like somebody who's just had a delicious slice of pizza.
Yeah,
looks.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We know that look.
Yes.
We know that look. All right. Well, shout out to Ian Puttick for that video. That was fun. Fun way to start the day. All right, folks. Here's some more fun to start the day. It appeared there was a very brief honeymoon period because of the tumultuous events of the weekend. It looks like perhaps the campaign to swap Biden out for someone more formidable had been stalled. But that came back with a vengeance all at once over the past 48 hours. So first I want to play just an interview where you could see here Biden himself start to hedge a little bit. He doesn't give quite as defiant an answer as he's been known to give when this question is raised. This is part of a BET interview.
Anything that you would look to, you personally, not anybody else, not other pundits, not even perhaps family members, that you would look to say, if I see that, I will reevaluate?
If there had some medical condition that emerged, if the doctors came to me and said, you got this problem, that problem. But I made a serious mistake in the whole debate. And look, when I originally ran, you may remember it, I said I was going to be a transitional candidate. And I thought that I'd be able to move from this, just pass it on to someone else. But I didn't anticipate things getting so divided. And quite frankly, I think the only thing age brings is a little bit of wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I've demonstrated that I know how to get things done for the country, in spite of the fact that we were told we couldn't get it done. But there's more to do, and I'm reluctant to walk away from that.
Okay, well, as you can see, that's not the exact same thing as I'm running, end of discussion. He says if the doctors see something wrong, he does have COVID now, which we're going to get to in the next segment, so I'm not going to talk too much about that right now. But it's funny how within hours of saying, hey, if the doctors find something wrong with me, I might drop out, that day you test positive.
Well, the blood tests show he's got the arsenic variant of COVID,
yeah,
right?
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah. The Obama variant. Exactly. So that tells you that the ball has moved down the field of getting him out of the race. This is a significant development as well. Representative Adam Schiff calls on Biden to drop out, citing serious concerns that he can't win. Adam Schiff, we can call him Adam Shit now because it's not the first 15 seconds of the video. So there we go. Has called on President Biden to drop out of the White House race, becoming the most prominent Democrat in Congress to do so. The announcement on Wednesday from Schiff, the heavy favorite in his U.S. Senate bid and a frequent guest on cable news, brought a jolt to an effort that had grown quiet after the weekend assassination attempt of former President Trump. The Burbank congressman cited serious concerns about Biden's ability to beat Trump in November. He is the latest Democrat to call for the president of his own party to exit the race amid growing questions about Biden's age and mental fitness to do the job, worries that began in earnest after last month's disastrous debate performance in which the incumbent at times appeared confused. On top of that, almost 2/3 of Democrats want Biden to step aside. Poll finds this from Axios. A whopping 65% of Democrats believe President Biden should withdraw from the 2024 presidential race and let the party pick a different nominee, according to an AP NORC poll out Wednesday. That's yesterday. Why it matters. The findings add more evidence to the damage done by Biden's disastrous debate performance last month, which highlighted longstanding concerns about his age and fitness for office. The result, based on a survey of 1,253 adults, fly in the face of Biden's own claim that the average voter wants him to stay in the race. Overall, 70% of U.S. voters want Biden to withdraw from the 2024 race, while only 57% want to see former President Trump withdraw. Now, what's really interesting about that?
I mean, that's significant. No.
Well, yeah, but what's actually even more significant about that, when you think about that, if 65% of Democrats want him to withdraw, but only 70% of U.S. voters want him to withdraw, what that means is, you crunch those numbers, that means a lot of Republicans are saying no, they want him to stay in because they think they could beat him. Like, the people who are answering no, he shouldn't withdraw are not exactly doing that as a vote of confidence. Like, there are clearly voters who are saying no, he shouldn't withdraw, hoping that he's persuaded to stay in the race.
Yes.
If you crunch those numbers, what that means is that actually the percentage of voters who think he's unfit is probably in the 80s or 90s, right?
But also, let's not forget, Trump has had a great week, but most people do not like him. It's easy to forget that at a moment like this.
Right.
He's not popular. He's extremely popular with the people he's popular with. That does not represent a majority of the country.
Exactly. However, Trump enjoys high support from within his own party. Only 26% of Republicans think he should exit the race and let the GOP pick a different candidate, while 73% of Republicans want him to keep running. Now, that is actually not a very impressive number, to Russell's point. If 1 in 4 Republicans want him out of the race, that says what Russell says. He's not a particularly popular figure. But contrast that with Biden's numbers. I mean, Biden, it's the opposite. Biden, 2/3 of your own party wants you out. Trump, 3/4 of your own party wants you in. Only 35% of Democrats want Biden to stay in the 2024 race.
Here comes Ron.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now they got J.D. Vance. Now they got their guy.
Now they got Vance. Yep. That's it. That's the end for Ron.
That's the end of the road.
Governorship's the end of the line. He's going to have to take a board seat at a defense contractor like everybody else.
Exactly. J.D. Vance came in, ate his lunch.
Biden
has defied calls from lawmakers for him to step aside and insisted he will not drop out. The Biden campaign has been contending with a number of damning polls since the debate. One found 67% of voters wanted Biden to drop out, and another found a declining share of voters view Biden as mentally sharp. While this week's attempted assassination of Trump temporarily quieted the rebellion in the Democratic Party, congressional Democrats revived the effort this week, Axios' Andrew Solender and Alex Thompson reported. So let's take a look at what they're referencing here. Biden rebellion resurfaces on Capitol Hill. Democratic members of Congress are reviving a fight over President Biden's candidacy following a brief respite in the wake of Saturday's assassination attempt against Trump, Axios has learned. Some lawmakers are uneasy about the DNC's plans to forge ahead with a virtual roll call vote to nominate Biden weeks before the Democratic convention. People are back to being angry at Biden, and a push to sign on to this letter is going around. The Replace Biden movement is back, a House Democrat told Axios. A letter circulating amongst congressional Democrats argues that there is no legal justification for an early virtual roll call, meaning a virtual nomination roll call vote, after Ohio moved its filing deadline past the date of the Democratic convention. We respectfully but emphatically request that you cancel any plans for an accelerated virtual roll call and further refrain from any extraordinary procedures that could be perceived as curtailing legitimate debate, it says. The DNC moved towards a virtual vote before the debate in response to Ohio threatening to not put Biden on the ballot because the party's convention was after their deadline. Ohio changed the rule, but the DNC has pushed forward, arguing that the legislature could, in theory, reverse itself, which is such an unbelievable bullshit excuse. They're not going to, they changed it so that they could accommodate the convention. The suggestion that the timeline for the virtual roll call has been accelerated is false, DNC Chair Jamie Harrison said in a statement to Axios. The timeline for the virtual roll call process remains on schedule and unchanged from when the DNC made that decision in May. Representative Susan Wild, Mike Quigley, and Pat Ryan told Axios they plan to sign on to the letter. Quigley and Ryan have both publicly called on Biden to withdraw. Representative Mike Levin, who told Biden he should drop out during a call with Hispanic caucus members on Friday, will sign the letter as well, his spokesperson told Axios. One House Dem told Axios they have received the letter and are considering signing on, and another senior aide to another House Democrat said their boss will sign on. Jared Huffman, Democrat from California, who told Biden on a progressive caucus call last Saturday that he worries the president is being shielded from bad news, has been circulating the letter to colleagues, according to one lawmaker. The DNC's virtual roll call is likely to start on July 9th and conclude by August 5th. So they got about 2 weeks here. 2 weeks before the Democratic convention begins on August 19th. Axios' Hans Nichols and Alex Thompson reported. That means Biden would only need to withstand internal opposition and criticism towards his candidacy for another 2 weeks. And of course,
so let me just mention, I was reading it this morning. Based on reporting in the Wall Street Journal, they did actually move it forward in contradiction to what they told Axios here. It was originally supposed to start next week, I think the 21st or 22nd. And partly in response to this letter they're talking about, they pushed it forward and they withdrew the letter. That was according to the Journal's reporting.
Okay, so they did actually push it back according to the Wall Street Journal.
Yes, based on their reporting, what Harrison's saying there is a lie. He's making it out. It was always the same. No, not according to what I read. And that comports with what I know, because they've been saying for a long time. I think it was the 21st or the 22nd. Now all of a sudden it's the 29th. They pushed it back to quiet down the rebels, to give them to allow them to feel they have more time to make their case.
Right. And now they do have some more time to make their case. And as I predicted, now you're starting to see the heavy hitters make their opinions known. So, breaking from BNO News, Democratic leaders Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries privately encouraged Biden to drop out of the race, according to ABC. So this was broken last night as part of ABC's convention coverage. Here's Jonathan Karl relaying this word.
Pressure from Democratic leaders for Biden to get out of the race is intensifying. In fact, one person who has been out there publicly defending Biden told me just a short while ago, Biden is going to see the whole house of cards come down soon. As for that meeting in Rehoboth, Delaware, I am told that this was a one-on-one meeting, just the Senate leader and the president, and that Chuck Schumer forcefully made the case that it would be better for Biden, better for the Democratic Party, and better for the country if he were to bow out of the race. And David, when I went to Schumer's office to ask them to tell them I was going to report this and tell you this tonight, absolutely no denial from Senator Schumer's office. They only said this: Leader Schumer conveyed the views of his caucus. In other words, the views of Democratic senators. I am also told that Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, has expressed similar views directly to the president.
We know Nancy Pelosi has been quietly trying to build an off-ramp for him since the end of June. And so here are two more top-ranking Democrats coming out and saying he's got to go. CNN reports that Joe Biden is now asking if Kamala is able to win, becoming more, quote, receptive to the idea of dropping out of the race. Here's this.
Back to the... Well, Jake, we know as President Biden is flying back to the East Coast tonight after testing positive for COVID, as you said, and cutting his trip to Las Vegas short, we know that he is facing potentially a new moment in his campaign. He's been hearing for the last several days from Democratic lawmakers, officials, and others about their concerns about his path forward here. And talking to a senior Democratic advisor tonight who is telling me this, he said he believes the president is being, quote, more receptive to these calls of concern. He goes on to say this: the private conversations with the Hill are continuing, this advisor tells me. He's being receptive, not as defiant as he is publicly. Goes on to saying, talking about Vice President Kamala Harris, who initially he wondered how she may fare in a campaign should it come to that. I'm told now he's asking questions saying, do you think Kamala can win? Again, this advisor offers caution saying this: it is still unclear where he's going to land, but he seems to be listening. So, Jake, what we do...
Yeah, okay. That tells you not good, believe me, not good. Now the dam has broken. And it's going to be, I think, a very short period of time between we're in, this is a closed matter, enough is enough, everybody shut up, to we're out. Because you can't really go anywhere with this 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of posture, which he seems to be taking on now. And now with the COVID diagnosis, now you're going to have a doctor come see him, right? Because he's sick. So now the doctor's going to say, here's what you need me to say, right? And that's it. It's over. Once it gets to that point, once the top brass come at you, Schumer, Jeffries, Pelosi, you can't withstand that. There's just no way to, because the money will not be there. You can't run the campaign that way. And it's going to be clear even to a lifelong defiant egomaniac like Joe Biden that he has no chance. And when you have leadership that against you, you're not going to have any fundraising. You're not going to have any operation. There's just no way you can win. Even a guy as far gone as Joe Biden is capable of understanding that, I think. And it has been my prediction all along that when voices like that make their opinions heard, he will simply have no choice but to bend the knee. And that is what I think is going to happen fairly soon. Maybe even today. I said if there's a time to do it, it's the day Trump makes his speech. You grab that news cycle from Donald Trump. So I would not be shocked if he backs out tonight.
Okay, so I think you're probably right. I mean, who knows about today? You could be right.
Yeah, today I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
But about withdrawing. This is all I'll say. It would be delicious karma if the Democratic Party, which insisted on foisting this asshole on America, could not get him out.
Yeah, had him foisted on themselves, right? Exactly, yes.
Yes. They picked one of the most notorious assholes in Washington to beat Bernie.
Right.
And this is why he's not out already, because he's a fucking asshole.
Right.
He's an asshole. He's always been an asshole. This is why, in spite of the fact that clearly there's something wrong with you, he would even the fact that he didn't stick to his tacit pledge to be a one-term president and to pass the torch. It's because of who he is. Oh, we got more work to do. No, man, it's your ego. You've been grabbing at this brass ring since you were plagiarizing speeches from British politicians in 1988. Now you got it. You don't want to let go of it. Fuck the country. You don't care. You're the president, and you want to keep it that way. You don't care if you have Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and what the implications of that are for the nation. You got yours. You want to keep it. Now, you're probably right, but if there's anyone who would be enough of a prick to say, we just got to last another 2 weeks. Another 2 weeks, I'll nominate. It would be Joe Biden.
You're right. It's possible, but I think it's a very, very slim chance.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. And, look, no one was beating this drum louder than I was, up until last weekend. And after last weekend's, I kind of dropped it, not because I thought they were going to keep him, but I was like, at this point, what does it matter? And that's what a lot of people were thinking in the immediate aftermath. They're thinking, what does it matter, really? I mean, we put that on the show. We did that on the show on Tuesday afternoon. Top Democrats, we've resigned ourselves to a second Trump presidency. It's over. I think they are really worried about this being a historic wipeout down ballot if he's at the top of the ticket. And they're probably worrying about burning too many bridges with the top donors. Like the top donors, the big money people have said, we're not donating if he's at the top of the ticket here. And that puts them in a situation where they could potentially have a long-term problem because they're going to burn a lot of bridges that they won't be able to rebuild afterwards. So that could be it. And there is the question, too, of whether he is actually capable of doing it. I mean, every time he appears now, the question is, does he melt down? The focus is not even on what he's saying.
Right.
Like I said, when we covered his NATO speech, it was very difficult without watching the whole video of his speech, which I really wasn't interested in doing. I would have loved to have read an article summarizing what he said. That's a much more productive use of time, quite frankly. But I couldn't really, because almost every article focused not on the substance of what he was saying, but on whether or not he malfunctioned. You just can't run that way. You can't run that way. And now Adam Schiff, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, this is not some congressman from some district no one's ever heard of. These are the heavy hitters right now. The only person whose mouth has yet to fly open about this is Barack Obama himself. And there have been reports that he is very skeptical of Biden's chances. He has not come out and made a statement to that effect yet. But I mean, if it gets to it, I think he will be next.
There are rumors he put Clooney up to that op-ed.
Yes.
That was a coordinated hit.
Yeah.
Les Moonves at CBS famously said at I think it was at an investors conference, that Donald Trump might be bad for the country, but he was good for CBS. In like spirit, I have to say a Kamala Trump race will be bad for the country, but it will be very good for due dissidents.
yes, exactly. Yes.
So on
we'll
that
say that
level,
openly. Yes.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, we're not saying it behind the scenes. We're saying it openly. That will be very good for business. And not only that, given that Trump is very likely to win, and one of the policies he's running on is to make tips tax-free, and I'm pretty sure you could make the case that super chats are tips. We're getting tired of winning over here.
Okay.
All right. We are getting tired of winning.
That is a sweet theory, but as a matter of fact, super chats are not counted as tips. So when Google gives us our tax form at the end of the year, it's all one lump sum. It's all one.
It's one lump sum now. But we're all going to get together. If he gets elected,
we're going to get a lobbyist. That's right. We're going to hire a lobbyist.
We're going to get a lobbyist, man. We're going to reach out to the quartering. Yeah. We're going to reach out to Tim Pool. We're going to organize, man.
That's right. We're going to get what's ours, damn it. Oh boy. YepX. Thanks for the $10. Hey DD, please invite Alex on from the Marx Engels Lenin Institute to talk politics and philosophy. If you need his email, you can DM me on Twitter. Thank you for that. Yeah, send us it. We're trying to line up as many interviews as we can, so open to pretty much anybody here, at least to vet them and see what's up. 2054 in the YouTube and Twitter chat. That's good for this. There we go.
It's a little more chill than the headbanging.
Oh yeah. See that one I could do. Yeah, exactly. That one I
more
could
chill.
do.
So my kayak stuff set off a titter among the country boys. Yeah, no, it's not that you need a certificate to kayak in New York because we're city folks. It's just the particular place that I'm taking the kayaking. I don't have to do it. But if I want to go out on their trips when I'm done with the beginner classes, like to Statue of Liberty and stuff, they take kayaks out there. I have to show that I won't drown if the kayak goes upside down.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I mean by certification.
Right. Liability purpose there.
Exactly.
Morning, fellas, says Derek P. Watching you guys discover ad reads on the RBM ham show the other day was comedy gold. Yeah, it was funny. Guy was killing it. Guy was fucking crushing it over there with those ad reads. Yeah, go watch that. RB Ham Beyond the Pale. We had a lot of fun. I mean, we had a great crowd. A lot of you guys showed up. So that was a lot of fun Tuesday night. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $100. Thank you. Let's get a cowbell out from Michael Castillo. Good morning, gentlemen. Can't let that genocide slide. The show is so dope. Well, thank you, Michael Castillo. I don't know. We cannot let the genocide slide. Appreciate you very much. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Ken Texican, when I saw Lester Holt's Biden interview, Biden was the one ball bearing short of Captain Queeg on trial in the Kane mutiny. Yeah, the Holt interview, we didn't feature much. There were a couple of interviews that we were going to do. There was one interview Biden did at some college venue or something like that Russ, you were going to put together. But then we kind of decided now with the likelihood of him dropping out, what's really the point?
Yeah, like they broke down all the lies he told in the interview. I mean, what does it matter now? Exactly. You know, he's got one foot out the door and the other foot in the grave. To hell with it.
Exactly. Pablo Diablo, I love that name. I'm with Russ on British food. Lived there for a year in the late 80s. It was even worse then. Thank you, Pablo Diablo.
All right. All you country boys with the goddamn kayaking. It's not $5,000. $225 for 3 classes.
5,000.
I don't need this. I don't need this working class hero crap.
Exactly. Yeah.
Enough, Jesus. What do you think? Oh yeah, I'm gonna pay $5,000 to kayak around in the dirty Hudson River with the empty plastic bottles next to me. Yeah, no, it's reasonably priced for what you're getting,
especially for New York. Okay, we are going to move right along here. We got Jake's Rumble app open so we can take Rumble rants and super chats. Thank you guys for sending those. A great crowd in here. 965 over on Rumble, 2,077 between YouTube and Twitter. That's wonderful. We're going to keep going. Of course, Joe Biden, as most of you know at this point, tested positive for COVID just hours after he said, if a doctor finds something wrong with me, I might drop out. Convenient timing because he has since tested positive for the China virus, the virus of unknown origin, as we code here in East Berlin. But here is a piece of sounds that is truly stunning, even by MSNBC standards. Here's Joy Reid describing the situation as it pertains to Joe Biden getting COVID and comparing that, yes, to Donald Trump taking a bullet to the side of his face. Yeah, that's true. Here it is.
That I have on that. These two men are both elderly. Donald Trump is an elderly man who, for whatever reason, was given 9 seconds to take a iconic photo op during an active shooter situation. Weird situation. We'll figure that out one day. But his survival of that and bouncing right back and going right to his convention is being conveyed in the media world as a sign of strength. This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days? Doesn't that convey exactly the same thing? That he's strong enough, older than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age. So if he does fine out of it and comes back and is able to do rallies, isn't that exactly the same? It's not exactly the same. It's not the same incident, but it's an elderly man coming through out of an illness.
It should.
Psaki is like, how do I get out of this with my career? How do I get out of this with my career?
Guy took a bullet to the head. A bullet to the side of his head. You're going to say surviving that is exactly the same, shows exactly the same strength as surviving COVID, which, yes, 3.5 years ago would have posed a statistically significant risk to an 81-year-old. But as she even says there, it once did. At this point, especially since I'm sure Biden is up to date on all of his vaccines, which you are recommended to get according to the CDC. So check out the CDC for all their recommendations and follow them very closely, please. The guy took a bullet, a bullet to the head. You're gonna say that's the same, exactly the same as getting COVID? And Psaki, I mean, you talk about a deer in the headlights look. Are you really going to toss to me now? Are you seriously going to toss to me now?
He's strong enough, older than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age.
Yeah, it used to be.
So if he does fine out of it and comes back and is able to do that.
She's like, oh my God.
You know,
you didn't. You didn't.
In our context, in our world, not broadly speaking, but in the YouTube commentator space, that still right there is as iconic as Trump with his fist in the air after getting shot. You're going to talk. Look at that face. That says it all. Wow. And Psaki, listen, these people are corrupt. They're dishonest. But one thing you can never say, don't ever tell me again about Jen Psaki that she is not loyal. That is loyalty, to react like that. And then when she tosses to her, be like, yeah, you're right. I mean, that shows camaraderie. That's camaraderie right there. That you would back her up, that you would yes and her there. Because I wouldn't do that for you, Russell. I wouldn't do that for you.
Well, I know you wouldn't. You haven't.
And it sounds like you're not even going to do it for me. You're not even going to back me up on this.
I'm not backing you up. I'm not backing you up.
This is what I mean. There's no loyalty. Why aren't you more like Jen Psaki?
I'm just, man.
You should be more like Jen Psaki and stick up for your partner.
I cannot wait for Tusker to take your chair.
Look at his backstabber.
Cannot wait.
Can you believe this? Can you believe this?
Bring a little freaking material analysis to this show.
Yeah.
I think that MSNBC, based on how they have reacted when people have been fired from MSNBC, most recently their Muslim colleagues, but before that, anyone who ever suggested that capitalism may not be all it's cracked up to be, or that endless war might not be a good thing. None of them have ever spoken up for them. That place is a snake pit. It's a snake pit. I'm sure Joy Reid has a lot of institutional power there, and you don't want to fuck with her. She'll shiv you in the shower. So Jen Psaki is in a position there. I would read it as, okay, so how do I not lose my career and not piss off Joy Reid, who has a lot more status and connections around this joint than I do?
All right, let's see it one more time.
Than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age. So if he does fine out of it and comes back and is able to do rallies, isn't that exactly the same? I mean, it's not exactly the same. It's not the same incident, but it's an elderly man coming through out of an illness.
It should.
It should.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't, because listen, you're talking about two completely fucking different things. Nobody is saying, wow, it's remarkable that Donald Trump could get a little nick in the ear and still campaign. It's about the psychology of it. It's not about the physical aspect of it. And now it's two completely different things.
I mean, there is a bit of a physical aspect to it. I mean, took a bullet in the ear. I mean, a bullet.
Yeah, but that's a cosmetic injury. It's not a fundamental injury. It's not like he took a bullet in the kidney.
Well, that's true. I mean, all right, I will give you that. Like the psychology of coming within an inch from death.
That is what people are really looking at when they say, well, hey, that takes a lot of strength. They don't mean because of the physical element of it. It's the mental element of you almost got assassinated and you're right back out on the road. the fact that he has COVID, like it's not even a comparable thing, aside from it being a batshit thing to compare just in any sense. Even on that level, it's a nonsensical comparison.
Yeah, absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. That was something.
Well, this is what happens. I mean, you talk about being in our space, and it gives you some perspective on the interplay between what you say, what you cover, and the audience that you have a relationship with. MSNBC is what happens when you have no ethics about what you say. You're just performing. You have no particular morals about it, and you're being paid just to feed a monoculture of an audience the craziest takes that you can come up with that are going to really satisfy them and keep them coming back for more. That's what you get. When you have no morals combined with a crazy audience, you get MSNBC.
Yes. Good point, Charles. Well put.
God damn it, I got to clip that.
Yeah, I got to clip that. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $10. How can people eat gefilte fish? Not even my cats will eat that. Yeah, no, I never ate it. I never ate it.
Don't even talk about it. I told this story, man. My grandfather used to eat that. I saw Young Frankenstein as a kid, and it looked like the brains in the jars in the movie to me.
Yeah.
So I would never eat it. I've never tasted gefilte fish.
No, I never have either. I mean, I don't like seafood as a rule, but that's beyond seafood. That's beyond seafood.
Yeah. I mean, that's as bad. If what you're getting at is that's as bad as jellied eel, point taken.
There's
I'm with you.
Woody Allen play called "Don't Drink the Water." You ever read that play? It was a play he wrote.
I know it is. I don't know if I ever read it. I might have back in the day.
So they made it into a little TV movie, which he starred in. And it's about this, New York Jewish family that's stuck at some foreign embassy in some, country that is not westernized. I forget what it was. And he's asking if they have anything to eat, and they're listing all this crazy shit that he, of course, doesn't want to eat because he's a nebbishy Jewy guy. He says, "Do you have a piece of fish?" The guy says, "We have octopus." He says, "No, not monsters, fish." That's what gefilte fish. That's beyond fish. Like I don't even know what that is.
I don't eat. I mean, what is it? Is that like a form of pickling that they've done with it?
Yeah.
Is that what's going on there?
No idea.
The fuck is that shit? What kind of fish do they use for that?
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't even know what it is. That's what I said. Yeah. His Highness, thanks for the $1. If it meant Adam Schiff losing, I'd become the biggest Biden supporter on the planet. Well, his seat is safe. He's not going to lose California Senate race. Make America cackle again, Kamala 2024. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Dancing the hokey pokey is even worse for the down ballot. Thanks, Kamala. Thank you, Sparky. Good morning, Sparky. Okay. Let's go on to a segment. All right, folks. This segment plays bittersweet now. Bittersweet. Because at the time this broke, it seemed like the Democrats were going to stand down and Biden was going to be in the race. And so his speech before the NAACP seemed more newsworthy. Now, admittedly, this is perhaps the last time we'll be making fun of a Joe Biden speech on the campaign trail, since he could drop out any day. So Joe Biden appeared before the NAACP and gave a speech, and we are about to show some of the lowlights here. So this is perhaps the last one of these type of segments that we will ever do on this show. And I have mixed feelings about that, as I'm sure you all do as well. So let's take a look. First here
I am really looking forward to shifting the focus to Cackle and Kamala.
Yeah, right, exactly. That'll be fun. So, but it'll be different. It'll be different. This is perhaps
it will be different.
Our farewell to Joe Biden. Here he is at the NAACP conference.
I know you say, Joe, you may not have a Congress. Well, guess what? You all told me I couldn't pass the Inflation Reduction Act. You all told me I couldn't face it. Anyway, we did it. We're going to bring rents down, as I said. We're going to build 2 million affordable homes. And cap rent increases of 5% a year so corporate landlords can't gouge Anyway, I don't want to get going. I'm going to get very upset.
I don't want to get going. Hey, listen, I don't want to get started on explaining what my policies are. The hell with that. So, I mean, what are you there for then? Am I going to cap rent at that? Whatever.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. I'm not actually going to do it. I don't even know why I'm here. I don't know why I haven't quit yet. So, the hell with it.
Well, he's been using that to save himself for a while. If you remember, there was that very squirmy interview he did with Nicole Wallace early on, where he clearly was just in outer space, and he kept, and so anyway, and she just had that smile frozen on her face, like she didn't know what to do. So this anyway, lately he doesn't use this one, but well, they'll get mad at me if I keep talking.
Right, yeah. He used to do that. He used to do that one.
But there's gouging America. And by the way, not only saves lives, it will save taxpayers. Just what I did on the first round on dealing with Medicare. It saves the taxpayer $160 billion because they don't have to pay these exorbitant prices to these anyway.
Oh, God. All right. Now this, so he says earlier in the speech he's going to cap rent increases at 5%. Well, anyway, later on here he is trying to make that same point, but apparently he misreads the teleprompter and doesn't know the policy well enough to say 5%. So instead, he makes a promise that we know he can't live up to.
The idea that corporate-owned housing is able to raise your rent $300-400 a month or something, under what I'm about to announce, they can't raise it more than $55.
So it says 5% on the screen. He can't read that, so he says he can't raise it more than $55, which of course is not true. And in certain communities, $300 to $400, as sick as this sounds, is probably within the 5% gap, right?
Yeah, well, it's interesting hearing this conversation as a New Yorker because, of course, we have this.
Right.
And generally, the rent guidelines will come in around 5% for a 2-year lease.
Right.
Somewhere around there. So, yeah, as a New Yorker, it's weird when you go to other parts of the country to know you have no protection, that they could just raise your rent $1,000 next month. It's just not like that here. It hasn't been like that here in generations. Like it's not a recent thing. We don't really have rent control. Those apartments have to be inherited.
Right.
They stopped that program like in the 50s. So the only rent controlled apartments have been passed on.
Right.
But rent stabilization covers a huge portion of the rental market in New York.
I think about half.
Yeah, well, and 1/8 of apartments in New York are public housing.
Right.
In addition to that. So it's a relatively small number of people who are just subject to the market. That's the luxury part of the market is not covered by stabilization. So, apartments that are $7,000 a month, there's no stabilization. That just goes by the market rate. There's a certain, I forget what the cap is, like a 2-bedroom, a certain amount of money. If it's below that, it's not in the luxury category, and it's automatically covered under rent stabilization. But the city council votes every year on what those increases are going to be. For a couple of years, they voted 0. There were no rent increases for a couple of years.
Yep.
Now, I think this year they voted like 3% and 6% on the 1- and 2-year lease. This is why in New York, this is a game people play. This is why I'm in the same building for 17 years. Because I moved into Harlem knowing that Harlem would get expensive. If you get into a neighborhood before it gets expensive, because of that rent stabilization, very quickly your rent is going to be half the market rate, which is pretty much where I am now.
Yeah. I mean, I was in Williamsburg in a rent stabilized place, and it was about half the market rate, We just got in because a friend of my wife's was moving to Georgia, and she gave it to us. She just let us move in there. That's how that works. But yeah, no, $55, not the actual policy aim, 5%. It wasn't done yet. Here's the big whopper here.
Go figure. From a guy who spread the birthism lie against Barack Obama, saying he wasn't born in America and he wasn't a U.S. citizen. Of course, here's what he thinks of black jobs. I love his phrase, black jobs. It tells a lot about the man and about his character. Folks, I know what a black job is. It's a vice president of the United States.
Cracker ass, cracker, put my foot in the cracker ass, cracker ass, cracker.
That was Chris Rock there. Chris Rock gave him a little mouth for that.
Yeah, he didn't appreciate that line.
Did not appreciate that line. It's like saying, you know what a black job is? Assistant principal. Yeah.
I mean, God bless him. He hasn't done one of those in a long time. He has not done one of those in a long time. This is how I always describe Joe Biden. Biden's idea of being liberal on race is the idea of a guy in a VF hall in 1977, VFW hall. Like, that's he thinks of himself as liberal on race.
Yeah.
And he thinks
exactly.
saying things like that is acceptable because that's where he is. I'm the guy in the VFW hall who thinks they should be allowed to eat with us. I'm a liberal.
Right. And obviously he meant that as a clapback, but he could have said like Supreme Court justice or something like that. If like that comes out pretty off. But even before that, when he's talking to them, he says, this is the guy who said Obama wasn't born here, or what does that say about, like, it's all of Biden's talking points, not just here, but at the debate as well. It's just all about Trump's character. It's all about the things he says that are offensive and gross and off-putting.
Same campaign Hillary ran.
Yeah, there's no policy whatsoever. No policy whatsoever. What can he point to and say, here's what I've done for you that is not symbolic, right? Whether it's trashing Trump for the Obama birth certificate thing, or even appointing a black woman to the Supreme Court. Again, these are symbolic gestures of recognition, if you will. They are not actual, tangible goals that he has fulfilled for ordinary people. You get none of that. You get none of that anywhere. And this is why they're doomed no matter who they run. The question is, can you actually run? Can you literally run with Biden, or can you not even run? But no matter who they run, this is all they have. And this is why, if you look at the RNC the first 3 nights, and now Trump's speech coming up tonight, and we'll get to this in the next segment a bit, but not only is that convention going well for them, but the vibe in that room is as mellow and light and as cool as can be. It is light as a feather in that room because they are so confident, and they have every reason to be.
Yeah, so far it's looking like a pretty successful convention. And you could see at this point, on LibWatch, they don't know what the hell to do. They don't know what the hell to do. They don't know whether to talk about Project 2025. They've kind of stopped defending Biden. I'm talking about the retail investors of politics, your average schmuck on social media who watches MSNBC. They've kind of shut up with the Biden defenses. They're still going back to Project 2025, but they don't know who their candidate is, so they don't know who they have to pump up yet. But they kind of know they lost. And hey, I got a little pushback for making this observation from some people, not most people, that in the last few years, it is much more the left that advocates political violence, broadly defined left, that advocates for political violence as a legitimate tactic, as even a moral tactic. And I think that's a lot of what you're going to see if Trump wins, because they've been juiced up to think he's Hitler. What's not justified if Hitler's getting elected? What can you not justify?
Yeah. Well, those are the existential stakes that they have laid out, yet they have stuck with Joe Biden for as long as they have, and now they're having a tough time getting him out. And time will tell. Now the clock is really ticking. I suspect they will. All right, let's take some more super chats here. Pat Donahue, thanks for the €5. I see Russell Brand's grift has been completed at the RNC with his softball interviews with the likes of MTG. Shameful. Is he at the RNC or is he just doing virtual interviews? I'm not sure. But yeah, he is one of the guys who has been a big disappointment these past 7, 8, 9 months. Yeah. The near silence on Gaza. And because, look, this is a guy who is truly...
The baptism.
Yeah, the baptism. Like, come on.
And hey, I'm not knocking it if you sincerely are undergoing some kind of religious conversion, but this does not play as that. It plays as he's pandering to a certain segment of his audience.
Yes. And now, look, granted, his personal situation being what it is, when the establishment is trying to destroy you, yeah, is that going to make you run into the arms of the cohort that's not?
As we'll see with Musk, yeah.
Sure. But to me, it like, I'm not interested in watching him anymore because I know that that's what he is doing. Like, why would I watch that?
Him,
yeah. Why would I watch that?
It is unfortunate. He was so great. There was that, what was it? They brought him on Morning Joe. Was that on Morning Joe where he just ripped apart the whole enterprise?
Oh, yeah. And he was great on Bill Maher pretty recently. Yeah. And the thing about Brand is not like one of these amorphous guys who can go either way and you kind of project onto him what you want. Brand was a legit, very articulate and intelligent leftist who made unapologetically leftist cases. He went on Bill Maher one time. He says, they say profit's not a dirty word. I say it's a filthy word because where there is profit, there is deficit. And just super forceful and just running circles. Like, he is capable of being so good. Yeah. And the fact that he has just punted is a shame. It's a shame. Right. And like I said, I'm not in this situation where you got people coming to crush you. I'm not going to judge him for that, but I am going to judge as an audience member. This is no longer something I'm interested in watching.
Well, that's it. There was a clear pivot after the allegations were made because he had to align with a camp for his own protection.
Right. Exactly. Which, whatever you want to say, I'm not going to get into personal judgment, but as an audience member, I'm not interested in watching that. What's there for me?
Because you can't trust him now.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's just not interesting. He's not doing interesting stuff anymore, really. Right. I mean, very rarely. The Secret Service has announced that they will protect Trump sometimes when they feel like it. Thank you, Hobbs 45. I thought a funny joke would be, Biden calls RFK. He says, Bobby, I got good news and bad news, and they're both the same. You're getting Secret Service protection. Sparky, I can't figure out why are they so reluctant to turn over the reins to Kamala. Maybe she's shown she won't obey the deep state, or there's animus between her and Sullivan Blinken, and she'd replace them. No, they're hesitant because she can't win.
Terrible.
Yeah, she can't
win. Terrible.
And they're worried. I think the consultant class is worried, and I said this in a previous show. When you lose, there's always going to be Monday morning quarterbacking. So when they switch Biden out for Kamala, and Kamala loses, inevitably, there's going to be hundreds of op-eds written should they have stuck with Biden. Because they made this very, important choice late in the campaign. And when it doesn't go well, just like when a baseball manager, when he goes to the bullpen and puts the pitcher in, if the pitcher he brings in strikes every batter out, he looks like a genius. The pitcher he brings in gives up a home run, blows the game, he looks like a goat, right? And so there's always going to be that. And I think a lot of the consultants know that whatever we do is going to look stupid because we have no chance anyway. Right?
Well, in a way, Kamala's been put in a no-win situation too.
Yes.
Like, she clearly wanted to be president, and she's being put. She doesn't have the political skill to have ever achieved that, in my opinion. But now she's been put in a situation where every card is stacked against you.
Right. Yes. 100%. 100%. I can never get enough of BSNBC's joyless greed. Thank you. Interview anyone.
She's a real psycho. She's a real psycho.
Yeah,
like Maddow is just a cold, calculating, amoral person. Joy Reid's a psycho.
Joy Ann Reid dropped the Kyle Kalinske haircut, but her take still got worse. They both have secondhand Joe Benshaw. Thank you for that. The Gold Star families are the best part of the convention. Very powerful. I didn't see that. I saw the 98-year-old speak last night because I tuned in at around 9 o'clock thinking Vance was going to come on, and then he didn't come on for like another hour after that. So, folks, for those of you who just filed in, we are going to stream the Trump speech tonight. We just don't know when. I'm hoping a time crystallizes as we go here, and we will announce that on our Substack. So join our Substack, and we'll put the link up on YouTube, and we'll put it up on X and everything, but we'll get the word out. But join our newsletter. It's free. DoDissidents.substack.com.
Let's not forget, besides the Gold Star families, they also had parents of Israeli hostages up there.
They had that one guy come out. Yeah.
Let's not get it twisted, man. Like, this administration comes into power, as bad as things are for pro-Palestine protesters now, they're going to be even worse.
They are going to be even worse. Yes, they are. And that's why it's important for the left to get its house in order to prep for that, because it's going to take a lot of solidarity and a lot of strength to fight back against that. And that's what this show will be about. There's going to be no honeymoon for Donald Trump here. We can promise you that. All right. Well, we got the newsletter up. I may as well pause for a break from our sponsors, which is Positive. No, I'm not RB. I'm not horning in on his action there. No, but if you want to support this show, please go to patreon.com/DoDissidents. You can join our Substack at DoDissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals, DoDissidents.locals.com. If you're watching on Rumble, hit that bright red join button underneath the screen. That takes you to our locals page. You sign up for as little as $5 a month. It gets your name up in lights on the patron scroll here. It also gets you call-in access to our post-show Q&As, which are every Sunday night, as well as access to 2 patron exclusive streams per month. We do 2 full-length shows, which are interactive live streams. So we do content, plus we take calls on those twice a month for our paid members, who are indeed the backbone of this show. So thank you guys all for signing up, all who have signed up. The link to sign up if you'd like to join the party, patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals at DoDissidents.locals.com. You guys are the backbone of the show. Thank you very much for your support.
Carl you are the only reason we're not selling radiation pills.
Yeah, right.
So don't make us sell radiation pills.
Exactly.
Sign up and support the show so we can maintain our independence from filthy capitalism.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes. That should be an ad we cut.
That's it. We got it in the can already.
We got it in the can. It's already there.
You just clip that.
Beautiful. For years, Dem brass knew their emperor had no clothes, but were willing to run that con on their sucker voters until they could run it no more. Absolutely, Carl. 100%. No doubt about it. Unity and Diversity Scribe, thanks for the $5 super sticker. Appreciate that. There will come a day, says Dan, thanks for the $4.99, when the choices won't be insanity and insanity, but that day is not today. I mean, I hope you're right about that. I hope you're right about that.
I hope I live long enough to see it.
Yeah, can't say I'm particularly hopeful on that front, but I appreciate your optimism. Okay. Tupac Amaru, thanks for the $4.99. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Conor McGregor was never my friend. You're the InfoWars guy, right? Hey, how are you? Thanks for the donation. Keaton is 100% spot on. It's not just about the job. It's all about being loyal to the team. Good Joy must truly have 62 IQ. Yeah, that was quite the commentary there. President Kamala might be able to use her Wallace Simpson level talent in foreign policy. Sparky, is she to live out the rest of her days relegated to trailer hitch chrome removal? Thank you, Sparky.
That was a nice subtle way you said that. I appreciated that.
There we go. Okay. We're going to move on here. We're going to do some more RNC convention coverage here. So, folks, the headline speech last night, night 3 of the Republican National Convention, was Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance. He spoke for about 36 minutes. I stayed up late for you all to cut together about a 7.5-minute edit of what I thought was most significant from his speech. So we're going to full screen that and play that all the way through, and then we're going to come back and talk about it. A couple things to watch out for here. Number one, the emphasis on populist economic policies, anti-war foreign policies, and also the emphasis on biographical details of his life and his upbringing. And as I mentioned in the previous segment, I think it's very significant, the tone in the room, the mood in the room. It is extremely light. It's almost playful at times. It's interactive. It's extremely casual. You would not think from watching this speech that this is a high-stakes moment where you're up on a high wire and you can't fall. That's the way a lot of these conventions feel, because usually we come into a convention, it's a relatively close race, at least in modern history, and all eyes are on you, and it's this very formal atmosphere. This feels like a hangout because they're so confident. They have such a lead. Their opposition is in shambles. And so the lightness in the air, I think, is notable here as well. So why don't we full screen this, and we'll see you back in 7.5 minutes. Enjoy the highlights from J.D. Vance's RNC speech.
Milwaukee. Greetings, Milwaukee. My fellow Americans and my fellow Republicans, my name is J.D. Vance from the great state of Ohio. O-H-I-O. You guys, we're gonna chill with the Ohio love. We gotta win Michigan too here. So, my friends, tonight is a night of hope, a celebration of what America once was, and with God's grace, what it will soon be again. And it is a reminder of the sacred duty we have to preserve the American experiment, to choose a new path for our children and grandchildren. Now, never in my wildest imagination could I have believed that I'd be standing here tonight. I grew up in Middletown, Ohio, a small town where people spoke their minds, built with their hands, and loved their God, their family, their community, and their country with their whole hearts. But it was also a place that had been cast aside and forgotten by America's ruling class in Washington. When I was in the 4th grade, a career politician by the name of Joe Biden supported NAFTA, a bad trade deal that sent countless good jobs to Mexico. When I was a sophomore in high school, that same career politician named Joe Biden gave China a sweetheart trade deal that destroyed even more good American middle-class manufacturing jobs. When I was a senior in high school, that same Joe Biden supported the disastrous invasion of Iraq, and at each step of the way, in small towns like mine in Ohio or next door in Pennsylvania or Michigan, in states all across our country, jobs were sent overseas and our children were sent to war. And now, my work taught me that there's still so much talent and grit in the American heartland. There really is. But for these places to thrive, my friends, we need a leader who fights for the people who built this country. We need a leader who's not in the pocket of big business, but answers to the working man, union and non-union alike. A leader who won't sell out to multinational corporations, but will stand up for American companies and American industry. A leader who rejects Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's Green New scam and fights to bring back our great American factories. We need President Donald J. Trump. Some people tell me I've lived the American dream, and of course they're right, and I'm so grateful for it. But the American dream that always counted most was not starting a business or becoming a senator or even being here with you fine people, though it's pretty awesome. My most important American dream was becoming a good husband and a good dad, of being able to give. Thank you. I wanted to give my kids the things that I didn't have when I was growing up, and that's the accomplishment that I'm proudest of. That tonight, I'm joined by my beautiful wife, Usha, an incredible lawyer and a better mom, and our 3 beautiful kids, Ewan, who's 7, Vivek, who's 4, and Mirabelle, who's 2. Now, they're back at the hotel, and kids, if you're watching, Daddy loves you very much, but get your butts in bed. It's 10 o'clock. But my friends, things did not work out well for a lot of kids I grew up with. Every now and then, I will get a call from a relative back home who asks, "Did you know so-and-so?" And I'll remember a face from years ago, and then I'll hear, "They died of an overdose." As always, America's ruling class wrote the checks. Communities like mine paid the price. For decades, that divide between the few with their power and comfort in Washington and the rest of us only widened. From Iraq to Afghanistan, from the financial crisis to the Great Recession, from open borders to stagnating wages, the people who govern this country have failed and failed again. That is, of course, until a guy named Donald J. Trump came along. President Trump represents America's last best hope to restore what, if lost, may never be found again. A country where a working-class boy born far from the halls of power can stand on this stage as the next vice president of the United States of America. You guys are a great crowd. Wow. And our movement is about single moms like mine who struggled with money and addiction but never gave up. And I'm proud to say that tonight my mom is here, 10 years clean and sober. I love you, Mom. You know, one of the things that you hear people say sometimes is that America is an idea. And to be clear, America was indeed founded on brilliant ideas like the rule of law and religious liberty, things written into the fabric of our Constitution and our nation. But America is not just an idea. It is a group of people with a shared history and a common future. It is, in short, a nation. Now, it is part of that tradition, of course, that we welcome newcomers. But when we allow newcomers into our American family, we allow them on our terms. To the people of Middletown, Ohio, and all the forgotten communities in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, and every corner of our nation, I promise you this: I will be a vice president who never forgets where he came from. And every single day for the next 4 years, when I walk into that White House to help President Trump, I will be doing it for you, for your family, for your future, and for this great country. Thank you. God bless all of you, and God bless our great country.
So there you have what I thought were the most significant highlights in terms of what we want to talk about, hitting the MAGA populism extremely hard, articulating it in a way that even Trump can't, and even Trump really doesn't, and in a way that Ron DeSantis never did either. NAFTA, Iraq War, Wall Street, big business, hammering all those things, then pivoting to his biographical story. Obviously, there's a guy who wrote a best-selling memoir, which is now selling out all over the place now, obviously.
Yeah, I guess they rushed more into the stores. Originally, I ordered it It was coming in August. Now it's coming tomorrow.
Oh, wow. There you go. His family upbringing, broken home, single mom, drug addiction, plaguing not just his family, but, his friends and people where he grew up. His American dream, being a good husband and a good dad. His wife, who introduced him, is a talent. I think she's very good on the mic. She's very likable. She's, and I know, she comes across as like a normal person, which is good. The shout out to his mom there. I mean, that looks like, you talk about central casting. You couldn't cast out of central casting the typical MAGA mom, right? I mean, it's just, it's scripted so well. His poor upbringing and his rise to where he is, which I gotta say, and we'll get more into this later, he didn't exactly get where he is by, working with his hands the way, his fellow people in his part of the country seem to think they can. He's not a guy who started out on the factory floor working 16 hours a day and was picked out by his boss for working hard. No, he joined the military, went overseas to do the war against the brown people, and then as a result of that, he got to go to Ohio State on a GI Bill type payment. And from there, he got a full ride to Yale Law School and then became a lawyer. And then he started working for a congressman or a senator. I think it was a senator. Then he clerked for a judge. So he took the inside track at a certain point.
Yeah, but remember, when you're talking about these parts of the country, going into the military to try to stabilize your situation and rise above your circumstances, that is very typical of that.
Well, exactly.
Region.
Well, it is typical. And you know what that is? Socialism. That's not capitalism doing that for you. That's what that is. So yes, that's partly my point. But then most importantly, the most significant part of that speech, and I have touched on this in the past before, and it was remarkable that he said this. America is not just an idea. It is a nation. It's a place with people in it. I have said that is what really distinguishes the MAGA wing of the Republican Party from the more establishment wings of both the Democratic Party and the GOP. Obama and Reagan both talked about America as an idea, as a hope, as a promise. It's in the air, right? And what he's saying is America was founded on great ideas, but we are more than just an idea. We are a nation. We are a place with people in it. These people have interests. They want those interests protected. And then the first place he went from there was to the migration question. Yes, people can come in, but they come in on our terms, right? Now, in my opinion, there are other places where you could go with that are more in line with where I come from and that are more powerful. But of course, in that room, that's going to play. And that is the most important line of the speech, because if there's one idea that distinguishes the sort of right-wing populists from everybody else, is that they view America as a place, right? Now that could get dark. That's where blood and soil comes from, right? I mean, so I'm not saying there's not a dark side to that, but there is very well articulated there an attachment to America, not as a shining light to the world and this promise and this sort of abstract vision of what everyone in the world should try and live up to. And if they don't, that's when we send our boys in and force it on them, right? But that hits it, that says it better than anything else. And the fact that he put it that way in the speech was extremely significant. And then the last thing, I know I'm going on, the tone in the room. The interaction between the audience when he says, "You're a great crowd." Yes, we are. Yes, we are. The JD's mom. People are just chill as could be. That room was cool as a cucumber. The air was light as a feather in that room. It didn't have the severe high stakes sort of atmosphere in the air that usually comes with these big high profile speeches. Why? Because they're up in the polls and the Democrats don't even know who they're running.
Right. Yeah, when we talked about this offline, I said, J.D. Vance, this is where you could really see was a great pick. When I was watching the speech, I said, all right, you know what Trump does understand? Show business. And show business is largely, especially on this level, understanding the American mind and understanding the types of images, ideas, and archetypes that appeal to that mind. Having this very heartland guy up from under, talking about essentially a fair deal for Americans and the common man, very MAGA. That's central casting. You know what this is? This is Bizarro World West Wing casting.
Right.
This would be the conservative vision of West Wing. That would be the president in that show.
Yeah, exactly.
And Trump's instincts are right, I thought, when I was watching it. Like, yeah, this guy really hits that. We talked a little bit about the idea that the Republican Party is driven by racial animus, and I have long said that is a real misinterpretation of the mainstream of the MAGA movement. You have to remember, this is something I thought Goodfellas captured very well when it showed across the decades the changes in the mafia. What you saw is, hey man, they live in the culture too. You saw how the culture changed the kinds of people that they were, their aesthetics, their attitudes. Hey man, these MAGA people are a part of America. They've experienced the last half century of advances and changes in thinking on race and on sexuality. Their vision, I think, of what they want America to be is much more like in the 50s. There was this post-war moment where, because of the Holocaust, Americans very much wanted to be anti-racist as they understood it at that time. Now, the way they would express that in TV and film, today we would see perhaps as condescending or patronizing, but to them it was having an open mind. So they would highlight Caribbeans like Harry Belafonte, for example, in their culture in a TV show, or I Love Lucy, her being married to a Latino and featuring what that meant for him culturally. That was that very, oh, you know what they do in Mexico? They wear sombreros. But to them, that was bringing them in and accepting them. But the underlying assumption there was, you're welcome here as long as you want to be American, as long as you want to come to the suburbs and have barbecues on the 4th of July. That's their vision. It's not about race. It's about culture. I don't think it is by definition their view. We don't want Indian people. We don't want black people. They want you to conform to their idea of what American culture is. That is the core of their conservatism. And I think that Vance, especially being married to an Indian woman, also speaks to that very well and represents that very well. I would also say on the culture war level, they are much more where most Americans are. I think when you look at, I'm not even going to get into it on a moral level, but on a psychological level, the liberal project of an ever expanding menu of sexualities, of genders, of personal lifestyle options, I think it's really mentally exhausting for people. I don't think people really do well without boundaries and definitions. I think it's part of what makes cultures function. It's part of what makes societies cohesive. They did a study many years ago where they put a bunch of children in a room and they all played. And then they put them in a vast open space and they sat still. Without definition, they didn't feel safe. They didn't feel safe to express themselves in this vast plain. I think people are kind of like that. I think they do need certain boundaries and definitions. I think one of the reasons you have an exploding mental health crisis is the breakdown in definitions. Now, the response to that might be, well, so what are you saying? Repression is better? I think, as with many things, there's a balance. There's a line between severe repression and open to anything. And I think the liberal class has really pushed the conversation so far into open to anything that they're very vulnerable to an attack of conservatism, of establishing some kind of understood set of precepts that everyone can gather around, because that speaks to people's tribal impulse. We can all agree on something. Throwing people into a world where, well, tomorrow the neighbor is into puppy play and you need to have your children petting them at the playground, otherwise you're a bigot. Yeah, that's not something you want your politics connected to. And yeah, is Nancy Pelosi running around saying, I support that? No, but the people who support Nancy Pelosi are. And that connects all that in the public mind.
I mean, I don't know the extent to which that is as significant as you say, and we've had this conversation before, and you've even said this on the air. You live in New York City where you're surrounded by that stuff. His speech was very light on that. It was very light on that. It was all anti-NAFTA.
I don't think Trump's will be as light on that.
We will see. I mean, we will find out later tonight. But Vance says my greatest American dream was being a good husband and a good dad. And I relate to that as a person. That's all I ever cared about. That's why I never had a career until I accidentally fell ass backwards into one now, doing this on YouTube. But I never had a career for that reason. That was never the most important thing to me. And I was never a career-oriented person. I was always a people-oriented person. Right. Not that I like people very much, but I always wanted a family. That was always very, very important to me. That was always my goal. And so I connect to that. And I appreciate him saying that, because that is something that is sort of understood in the conservative space to a degree, but at the same time, men who don't present themselves as go-getters are seen as weak, especially in right-wing circles. So for a guy in the Republican Party to come out and say, hey, you know what, my American dream was not to become a high-powered lawyer or to, even necessarily to crawl out of the hole I was born into, because he comes from this very poor background, but my American dream was to be a good family and a good dad. Right. Like, that hits on what you're talking about without being so antagonistic and aggressive.
Yes, but I'm saying it's implicit. It's implicit in what he represents. He's not directly, although I suspect over the course of the campaign you will see some of that directly. Also because of the way the Democrats are going to present themselves and the kinds of arguments that they're going to make, which are going to tend to go in that direction, as if LGBTQ issues are the most important thing in an America with runaway inflation and broad inability to afford the quote-unquote American dream. They're going to play right into that, because how do you justify, this is really what it all goes back to with them. How do you justify being a Wall Street owned left party except with an extreme emphasis on cultural differences with Republicans? They have to emphasize that because they can't talk about anything that would be traditionally left. In terms of what you're talking about with the right wing really valuing self-reliance, you know what? That, I believe, is by design. We've talked about this. The Powell memo laid out a world where they'd weaken the left, where they would make the left very weak. You used to have very tough people in the left, man. Those people who used to go out on strike and get the shit beat out of them by the Pinkertons. Those are tough people. Those people were stripped out of the left, really driven over into the Republican Party. And J.D. Vance Donald Trump's rise, the whole MAGA movement is a result of that shift of shoving those people over into the right. What you've got left, because the left was transformed into a movement of identity and victimhood, that language appeals to neurotic, weak, narcissistic people. That's why the strong people, the people who believe self-reliance is not a right-wing value, or it shouldn't be. It has become one. And that's why the left is so weak and frankly repulsive at this point, or what represents itself as the left.
Well, that's why, you know, the organizations like the African People's Socialist Party are so interesting, because you talk to Omali Yeshitela, he's a blast from the past. He's a callback.
Right.
To, you know, a left that spoke of economic self-determination, which is the language he still uses. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, let's go on. We got plenty more stuff to do today. Let's take some more Super Chats and Rumble Rants. Don't knock octopus. Italian seafood salad with octopus is delicious. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I'm not a seafood guy, but I do like a calamari or an octopus. Yeah, for some reason, I don't know. I do like, that is one of the very few pieces of seafood that I'm cool to eat. I'm not a seafood guy generally. Good morning, gents. Have you guys seen the D.L. Hughley response to videos to Clooney? If Dem Cope was a drug, it's stronger than 2 liters of fentanyl. I saw he put something out. I could not be less interested in watching it, so I didn't. But I did see he had some response. Yeah, and I'm sure there was quite something.
I just don't know how these people are going out there with a straight face, especially that the progressives have become the loudest, the emperor's fully suited voices out there. It's just amazing. Have you no shame? Has Bernie Sanders no shame? Come on, man. He can't be that stupid. Like, no. What is it? What is it? They're going to arrest your wife? Like, what the fuck, man?
Well, the thing that's crazy about it is they're all going to have to turn on a dime now when he drops out. Like, what are they going to do? Boycott the ticket because they switch? No, they're going to play ball anyway. So why even be as forceful? Like, they're used to just waiting and seeing how it goes, which way the wind blows. Why not just do that? Because you're going to look extra stupid now when they pull them and you just fall in line in a second, which of course you will.
The same right-wing influencers that are trying to take out Joe Biden are coming after me. What the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about? AIPAC. It's AIPAC coming for you. Say it. AIPAC.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be so cool for Trump to pour Diet Coke on his ear and it instantly heals. Yes, that would be good. That's a secret. You know what a black job is? Driving Mrs. Biden. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Let's see. I would actually prefer if you read ads during the supporter scroll. It's stupid not to take that easy money. At least do them while you're doing fewer shows. Well, thanks, Nocturnal Human. We can't do them now if we wanted to because we're not streaming through Rumble Studio. You have to stream through Rumble Studio. There is a way to set that up. We don't plan to unless we have to. Unless the YouTube drops the hammer on us or something like that. Where it becomes...
I mean, if we did do it, we would do it like on RB Ham. We'd make a game of it.
Yeah,
all right, which one do you want us to read?
Yeah, right, exactly. Do it for fun.
This one sounds funny.
Yeah, exactly. We could do it that way. A guy in my squad at Fort Bragg used to eat gefilte fish. We thought it was gross back then too. Yeah.
Yeah, my granddad used to eat that. That was the only person I ever knew who ate that.
Quintessential. Thanks for the $10. By the way, does Keaton still have to do DoorDash to survive? I have not had to drive in a while. Thanks very much to all of you lovely people. However, I'm going to have to drive a little bit now because you know what? This is why I say I'm not a patriotic person. So now that Amanda's having a baby and she actually has an on-the-books job, she gets maternity leave. She gets paid leave, right? You know what the first 8 weeks of paid leave are? $160 a week. That's what they give mothers.
Really?
For paid leave. Yeah. Then after those 2 months, she gets like 70% of her salary, but you never just get paid. Like the paid leave is not what they say it is. $160 a week, that's like, I mean, I won't get into what she makes, but it's not a lot. That is probably less than a day's pay. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what they give you for the first 8 weeks, and they call that paid leave.
So hang on, you're going to be door dashing?
I'm going to have to. I mean, we're doing all right at this, but not enough to make up for basically a whole second salary for 2 months. I mean, it's just crazy. What a piece of shit country, right? See, that's what I mean. That's why I told
Viva la
Thomas Frank,
France.
fuck the country. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, that's what they call paid leave. So even when they say you have it, a lot of times you don't actually have it. Never reward a politician's no vote when the thing passes overwhelmingly. Obama, Iraq vote, Vance, Ukraine package. Thank you, abiding. I like this one. This is funny. Eric Rousseau, it's not that the emperor has no clothes, it's that the clothes has no emperor. Empty suit presidents. Yes, good way to put it.
Very
true. It's not the clothes' fault. Protesters cleared and population numb to the news. The Zionists have won. Resistance is dead. We do have an Israel story toward the end of the show, but the fact that school is out and those protests are not there is a big problem. Although I do want to plug, actually, now that you're on that, there's a huge protest happening on the 24th, which is next Wednesday in Washington, D.C. That's when Netanyahu is coming to town. And so we're going to talk more about this as the date approaches because we have 2 shows between now and then. But be there if you can. It's in Washington, D.C. Surround the White House, arrest Netanyahu. That's the demands. And I think that's going to be a big one. So if you can be there, please do. I think Jose's going. Or you're going with Jose? Is that still the plan?
Yep, I'm riding down with them.
Riding down with Jose Vega. So we will have some footage for you guys from that.
By the time I come back on Thursday, I'm going to be like, Lyndon knew everything.
Yeah, right, exactly.
He knew everything. He saw it all.
He saw it all. He warned us all. Democrats are sending Joe to see the wizard to get himself a brain following the dilapidated and privatized yellow brick road. Thank you, Eric Huso. Appreciate that. J.D. Vance is like a fat Jackson Hinkle with no riz. That's the thing. I mean, he is a bit of a charisma void. He's a bit white bread. But in that room, it worked because the mood was so light and interactive anyway. It didn't really matter, right?
I think it works for him. I think it plays to the whole simple Gary Cooper heartland kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think his lack of skill actually works to his advantage because
it gives him an aw shucks quality that a Yale graduate wouldn't normally have.
Exactly. Yes, very well put. Monday morning QBing at the DNC, says Dan Richmond. Thanks for the $10. Come on, Keaton Hillary lost to her hand-picked opponent, and everyone involved in that still have jobs, and Voldemort herself is deified. That is true. I mean, it is a tight-knit circle there, but I'm just saying in the punditry world, if you make a big decision like this late in the campaign and you lose, you are going to be criticized for that, even though you shouldn't be, because it really doesn't matter. Like, it's not going to affect the outcome. They're going to lose either way. It's not that Kamala has this great chance to win and Biden doesn't. It's just, I think, for form's sake, if you actually want to do your party the dignity of running a campaign and not forcing every person with a D next to their name to gaslight the public into saying Joe Biden is fit for office, I think you just have to swap him out. I mean,
the real tragedy here is it's looking more and more like she fucked Willie Brown for nothing.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Aren't they basically running Kamala now anyway? Who believes Joe will be alive for 4 more years? Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I considered writing a little piece about that. It's Kamala either way you put it because no one thinks Biden's going to be around for another 4 years in office. So, yes, she basically is on the ballot either way. Hobbs 45. J.D. Vance is youthful and vibrant. Is it just me or does he remind you of a young Mike Pence? It doesn't really. Somebody said he looks like a racist Care Bear, which I thought was funny. But yeah, no, it doesn't really remind me of a young Pence. And what a big difference. Like, I meant to say this in the segment, but, this is Trump filling a gap where he felt he needed to. In 2016, he needed to lock down the evangelical vote because a lot of the evangelicals didn't like him. Don't forget, Trump lost Iowa in 2016, which that's your test of strength amongst like the Christian right. And so he felt he needed to shore that base up, so he picked Pence. And now he's really trying to lock down those Rust Belt states, and so he picked the guy who gives him the best chance to do that. And after watching that speech, there's no question he was the best pick for that. No question. DD kicks ass. Thank you, Kuznetsky Bassane. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay. We will move on here. We'll read this one. J.D. Vance, anti-Israel quote, together we make sure our allies share in the burden of securing world peace. No more free rides for nations that betray the generosity of the American taxpayers. I see what you did there, Ken Texican. Yeah, I'll just read these all since they came in. J.D. Vance, pro-Palestinian quote from last night, sense of home and die to protect it. And not that those two quotes from Vance last night didn't specify Palestine and Israel, but as soon as the words came out of his mouth, I immediately thought of Israel and Palestine. Yeah, well, that's what makes him such a hypocrite at the end of the day, right? And good point. Okay. Why was Stephen Colbert standing next to JD's mom? Yeah, you think Johnson looks like Stephen Colbert? He does a little bit. I see that. I can see that. Test, says Bonzo Beans. Yep, coming through loud and clear. Thank you, Bonzo Beans. Okay, let's get into some more news. We'll shift off of the campaign for a moment. Scrutiny is mounting on the Secret Service for a pretty good reason. I think we are all in agreement about that. Secret Service under pressure for shooter who got clear shot at Trump. For more than a half century since the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the Secret Service has routinely surveyed and secured all structures near major national political events to prevent gunfire from reaching a president or anyone else under the agency's protection. But somehow on Saturday, a man wielding a semi-automatic rifle was able to access a roof just 140 yards from the stage where former President Donald Trump was speaking. Now under scrutiny for its worst security breach since the 1981 attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan, the Secret Service is facing pressure to determine whether it failed to devote enough resources to the protection of a former president turned presumptive nominee. Among the questions agency officials are seeking to answer, according to a senior official, is whether the agency suffered a critical breakdown in communications with the local police in Butler, Pennsylvania, who were assigned to secure the outer perimeter where the gunman positioned himself on the roof of a nearby building. President Biden said Sunday that he had directed the Secret Service to review all security measures for the Republican National Convention, which takes place this week in Milwaukee, and he said he had ordered an independent review of the security at Saturday's rally. Lawmakers in both parties are calling on the Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheadle, to account for decisions that may have left key responsibilities to local authorities, and law enforcement officials and experts are expressing shock at what they say is an obvious failure by the agency to plan for a Trump rally in a period of rising national polarization. Kevin P. Rojek, the FBI special agent in charge of the Pittsburgh field office, said it was surprising that the gunman was able to open fire on the stage before being killed. Cheadle, the Secret Service director, sent a memo to her agents on Sunday lauding their fast action to evacuate Trump after shots were fired. The attempted assassination of former President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, is a moment that forever will be remembered in history, she said in the memo, according to a section that was read to the Washington Post. The Secret Service moved quickly in this situation and neutralized the threat. More on that later, but here is a snippet of an interview that she did with ABC saying the buck stops with me, but resisting calls to step down.
Responsible for this happening.
What I would say is that the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service. It was unacceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
The President and Homeland Security Secretary said today they had 100% confidence in you, but there are some members of Congress calling on you to resign.
I appreciate the Secretary's comments, and we're going to continue to be transparent and communicate with people.
You plan to stay on? Absolutely.
I do plan to stay on.
All right, so there's been much reporting in recent days, some of which is old news by now, as to the sort of intricacies of these breakdowns. But we'll read a little more here. CBS broke this a couple days ago. Snipers were stationed inside the building as the Trump rally shooter climbed up to the roof. Local officer says from CBS. 3 snipers were stationed inside building used in Trump assassination attempt. There were 3 snipers stationed inside the building the shooter used to Saturday's shooting of former President Donald Trump. A local law enforcement officer with direct knowledge of the incident tells CBS News. The operations plan had them stationed inside the building looking out windows towards the rally. The information about the 3 snipers being inside the building was first reported by BeaverCountian.com. Mo, Larry, and Curly in there, apparently. The guy climbs up a ladder. I mean, it's almost out of an absurdist farce.
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. One of the snipers inside saw Thomas Matthew Crooks outside and looking up at the roof, observing the building and disappearing, a local law enforcement officer tells CBS News. I'm going to read that again because it bears repeating. One of the snipers inside saw Thomas Matthew Crooks outside and looking up at the roof, observing the building and disappearing, a law enforcement officer tells CBS News. What? What? Crooks came back, sat down, and looked at his phone. At that point, one of the snipers took a picture of him. Crooks took out a rangefinder, and the sniper radioed to the command post. Crooks disappeared again and then came back a third time with a backpack. The snipers called in with information that he had a backpack and said he was walking towards the back of the building. Officers believe that Crooks might have used an air conditioning unit to get on top of the roof. By the time the other officers came for backup, he had climbed on top of the building and was positioned above and behind the snipers inside the building, the officer said. Two other officers who heard the sniper's call tried to get onto the roof. State police started rushing to the scene, but by that time, a Secret Service sniper had already killed Crooks, the officer said. I mean, that is what you would expect to read on, like, InfoWars, right? Like that. This is what you would expect to read on some site that you didn't trust, right? This is where you would expect to read this with no sourcing. CBS News reports that they saw him 3 times. You had 3 guys in there. They saw him 3 times, and he makes his way up onto the roof. We're not done. Trump rally shooter was reported as a suspicious person an hour before opening fire. This is NBC. The gunman who opened fire at former President Donald Trump's Pennsylvania rally was reported as a suspicious person and photographed 1 hour before he began shooting, according to 2 sources familiar with a briefing for senators Wednesday. Secret Service and FBI officials shared a timeline of events that revealed troubling new details about the assassination attempt and raised questions about why Secret Service officials allowed Trump to take the stage. Thomas Matthew Crooks, who had a rangefinder and a backpack with him, was reported as a suspicious person 1 hour before he began shooting, Senator John Barrasso, Republican from Wyoming, said in a statement after the briefing. This was a 100% cover your ass briefing, Barrasso said. He had a rangefinder and a backpack. The Secret Service lost sight of him. Roughly 30 minutes after the initial suspicious person report, Pennsylvania State Police notified the Secret Service of a suspicious person at 5:51 p.m. The Secret Service notified its snipers at 5:53, 2 minutes later, the sources said. At 6:02, Trump took the stage. At 6:09, members of the crowd notified that Crooks, 20, was on a rooftop. 2 minutes later, Crooks opened fire on Trump at 6:11. So look at that. Look at that. I mean, that's just incredible. Senators were also told that Crooks visited the site of the assassination attempt last week, the sources said. Barrasso said Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle should be removed. No one has taken responsibility, Barrasso said. Someone has died. The former president was almost killed. The head of the Secret Service needs to go. The agency did not immediately respond to requests for comment. So here's some video of the Secret Service director refusing to answer to the American people. This was tweeted out by Marsha Blackburn. The sound on this is pretty tough to hear, so we're not going to play much of it, but this will just give you an idea of how things went here.
Necessary from you, very disappointed in your leadership.
Very disappointed in your leadership.
Your resignation, and either resign tonight or start answering our questions right now about the death threat to President Trump and allowing him to go on stage in Pennsylvania at a time when he'd already been alerted that there was somebody with a spotter, all these situations already identified an hour before, and you let him go on stage without the knowledge of him, the team on the ground, and you will put him within less than an inch of his life. So resignation or full explanation to us right now.
We have turned to get our questions in, and he never was running the phone. It was not a DEMS. The director
We will prove you.
Nearly killed. You mean an hour out, you had a suspicious person, and at 5:51, according to the timeline of your deputy, you identified a potential threat. And then at 5:52, you told, or someone told, that the sniper, that he was there. But can you give us an explanation? Why would anyone allow the president to go on stage when you know you've got a potential threat and you've got snipers that are trained on it? Why? I don't think that this is the forum to have this discussion.
Well, you hung up on. We're here. You cut off the meeting short.
Actually to thank the partners who have helped secure the Republican National Convention, and I was not going to take away from their safety.
Well, we can find a place to go right now.
Yes.
She's trying to duck them, it sounds like.
All right, we'll try again.
So they're trying to get a time. The sound there is really bad. They probably should have subtitled that piece. But yeah, if you look at the timeline, again, this is what they're referencing there. 5:51, Secret Service notified its snipers. Okay, so notified of a suspicious person at 5:51, and then the shot was fired 20 minutes later. I mean, there's no excuse for that, period. I mean, 20 minutes? 20 minutes? I mean... What do you say to that? What does she say to that? Nothing, apparently.
Yeah, she should really. Is it somewhat symbolic? I can't imagine that these problems in the agency, if indeed these are innocent problems, which itself is open to question. I can't imagine they started under her tenure. But that's called the buck stops here. That's called responsibility. This happened on your watch. You resigned.
Of course.
The idea that she's not resigning with, as the article said, the greatest failure of the Secret Service since the Reagan assassination attempt in '81, of course you resign. You take responsibility. You're the head of the agency. Of course, it's a symbolic role. Does she sit there and control day-to-day disposition of Secret Service agents? I'm sure that's not the case, but you run the agency, man. You got to resign. That aside, it's hard to say. We're in an America where incompetence is spreading like a wildfire. So is it gross incompetence of everyone involved, or is it something more nefarious? It's very difficult to say. Obviously, the circumstances are extremely bizarre.
Yes, they're extremely bizarre. And look, we don't work in the field, obviously, but we've covered this enough. We've learned about this enough. We did a whole segment, which we clipped as a separate piece, that emphasized a focus on the overhead map, the layout. As events go, and again, we're speaking as laymen here, obviously, it seems to me like this was a relatively easy venue to secure because it's relatively secluded. There aren't, 50 rooftops surrounding where the stage is. It's not in the middle of like Washington Square Park where people could be stationed anywhere. This is a situation where you had half a dozen buildings, half a dozen rooftops to secure. I don't buy that you couldn't have staffed a person on every rooftop, especially since you had local police, especially since you have people inside the building. Why have 3 people stationed inside the building and not put one of them on top of the building? Why were 3 people in the building and no one on the roof? That makes no sense. There is no good explanation for that, whether it's incompetence or something worse. There just is no good explanation. And yes, if you're the head of the agency and that happens on your watch, even if it's not, as Russell said, your fault, the buck stops there. And if you are as concerned as so much of the political leadership class is concerned that people's trust in these institutions are eroding, well, the way to restore some trust is to take accountability when something goes wrong and saying, this happened on my watch. I can't be here anymore. I can't be responsible for this anymore. That's how you get accountability. That's how you restore some measure of trust in these institutions. When a shot is fired at the president and it comes out that you had ample warning that something was happening in a relatively secluded area that, as compared to, a highly populated, densely populated urban environment, should be relatively easy to secure, that is a catastrophic failure. And the only responsible response to that is to step down. Whether it's your fault or not, the greater good comes first. The greater good comes first. Fauci, the same thing. I said the same thing about Fauci. Before you even look at what he actually did and his culpability for things, right? Setting all of that aside, his conflicts in that pandemic were such that he should have, for the good of the people, of maintaining trust, say, you know what? I have too many conflicts here. I can't oversee this. It has to be somebody else. These people don't think like that. These people, it has to be me. It's always got to be me. I worked my ass off to get to this point, and I am not letting go no matter what. They don't actually have what's best for the people in mind. And that's assuming no nefarious motive. That's just assuming a narcissism and a careerism that is characteristic of just about everyone who puts their foot in the ring. Well, yes, like the current president. Exactly.
Who is refusing to resign. The only thing I will say on the side of basic incompetence is this. I read a book quite a few years ago about the history of the CIA. And it was very interesting in that it illustrated that the CIA was always a relatively incompetent intelligence agency by comparison to its opposite number, the KGB or the British Secret
MI6,
Service,
right.
MI6. And, you can speculate on why. The most obvious reason is we're geographically isolated. We have a population that is notoriously uninterested in the rest of the world. So we don't develop the kind of society that would make good secret agents, good intelligence officers. But
too much corn in the diet.
Although not too much soy. We don't produce, well, now we're producing those soy boys. But you never really had that kind of intelligence agency that is omnipotent the way that it is portrayed in the movies. And that's because a lot of these movies coordinate with the government to get access to military equipment for their shots, access to military bases. So they'll give these very agencies final approval of scripts in exchange for material support. So the movies and TV have given us this impression of almost godlike powers of our intelligence agencies. And certainly that's true of the Secret Service. You get the impression of the Secret Service as being incredibly competent. But just like with the CIA, that could just be propaganda. They may be deeply incompetent and very lucky.
Yes. It certainly is a question. It's an open question as much as, it looks fishy. This is why you say there needs to be an investigation, and this is what we said on the day of. Like there are enough dots here to think they could be connected in some way. The challenge is getting to the bottom of that. But in the short term, like if these people actually cared about public trust, of course you step down. You had according to that timeline there, 20 minutes, 5:51 to 6:11, at least 20 minutes. Now they're saying they spotted him earlier, right? Even if you don't assign an exact time, even if you can't assign an exact timeline to that at this point, 20 minutes pass before you were notified of a suspicious character. They had eyes on him. CBS says the 3 snipers inside had eyes on him. They lost eyes on him, and then he shot at the president. That's a career ender right there.
Right.
How could it not be? It's absurd. It's not even a question.
Of course.
Yeah. It's just unbelievable. Kenman, thanks for the 279. Who cares that JD's wife is Indian? She's wealthy. She is a Yale lawyer. There are a couple of lawyers there.
With everything going on, we were going to cover that wedding, but now I think it's too late.
Oh, Ah, that's right. Did they have Justin Bieber there? Was he there? Is that the one that he
Yes,
showed
they
up
had
at?
Justin Bieber. Yeah,
That's right. The Indian wedding. JD, he supports genocide and war against China, not anti-war. No, he's honkish in a lot of ways. Absolutely. Iran, too. Initially, says Sparky, thank you, JD Vance was going to be the hillbilly Obama, including book and backstory. Over time, he realized some of his sponsors were evil. Hopefully, he'll discover the other evil ones in time. Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, you don't hold your breath for any of that. Don't hold your breath for any of that.
Look, he's done. We got into it in the Li Fong piece. He's done some good stuff. We'll see how he evolves.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
you know, just to think, oh yeah, this guy is the second coming of Eugene Debs. Only he's a Republican. That's very misplaced.
That is naive. Absolutely, 100%. Okay, let's see here. Do you think Biden could stay president so he can pardon Hunter but drop out of the 2024 race? Well, yeah, he could. I mean, he's not going to resign as president. I think that's off the table. You're not going to see him resign and Kamala run as an incumbent.
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
So he could pardon whoever he wants until he steps down. They should just tell him to do that. Like at that point, they should say, "Look, what do we have to do? Like, what do you want here?" You know? I mean, that's not something Democrats aren't used to doing anyway.
Don't you want to pardon your son while you still remember who he is?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yes. Keaton, watch The Boys. You'll never eat octopus again. LOL. Was there a scene in The Boys that I would find repulsive in that way?
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they have a characters like the Aquaman take off and he's fucking an octopus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Trump won Iowa in both 2016 and 2020. You must be thinking of another state, Special K. No, I'm talking about the primary. He lost the Iowa caucus in 2016 to Ted Cruz. It was close, but he lost. That's what I'm talking about. No, he won the general election both times. But in 2016, he lost the Iowa caucuses to Cruz, and that's why people thought he might be done. And then he went on that run. He won New Hampshire and then South Carolina. So that's what I meant there. Okay. Go get your fucking shine box. Forgive the terrible spelling. YouTube censorship is insane. I need to invent a whole new language to defeat this thing. Yeah. I was watching the Jimmy Dore show yesterday, and somebody said, because Jimmy, by the way, thanks for the shout out, gave us a couple shout outs on yesterday's show. I sent him the Joy Reid thing. I texted it to him. I said, listen, I know you're live now, but I think
did he end up doing it?
He did. He kind of put it together last minute because I sent it to him like minutes before he was about to wrap.
Right.
And I said, listen, I know you're live, but this is kind of too perfect for you not to do. And so he did it. But I noticed one of the guys in the chat said, do dissidents called the Trump assassination an attack, which means Keaton still has some Trump derangement syndrome. I call it an attack in the thumbnail. There are certain words where when you put in the thumbnail, the videos get throttled. Julian Assange, definitely. So my theory is, and you notice everybody did it this way, people said an attempt on Trump's life. That's how they titled the video. Because if you put the word assassination in the thumbnail, my theory is they will suppress that.
So they're saying
so that's why I use
we avoided the word assassination because we hate Trump.
Right. That's what the theory was a couple guys.
I mean that's retarded on the face of it. Like, what's the difference saying an attack? Clearly an attack would be an assassination
I know,
attempt
it's
by definition. What's the difference?
It's semantical anyway, but the algorithm does force you to play those semantical games.
Sure.
Like Julian Assange. When the Assange plea deal happened, that story was everywhere. Don't tell me there was not YouTube then says, well, there's a lack of fewer viewers are interested in watching this video of Assange free. Nonsense.
Right,
there were 700,000 tweets about that within hours of it happening. It was a high interest story. You put the word Assange in there, it gets throttled. It gets shadow banned. So when we did the video on Morlock, Matthew Miller smearing Assange for, basically saying he put people's lives at risk by leaking the information, I went to title the video, and instead of saying Miller shut down for smearing Assange, I said Miller shut down for smearing WikiLeaks. When I put WikiLeaks in the title instead of Assange, got like 50,000 views. When you put Assange in the title, 2,000 views. So that's the difference. So yes, semantically in titles and thumbnails, like if something reads a little awkward, that's probably why. Because you have to, and this is why some YouTubers do the thing where, like, if they spell Gaza, they'll put the @ symbol in the A because they don't want it to get shadow banned. So sometimes you got to do it that way. But yes, you do have to learn a whole nother language when you're on a censorious platform. Point taken. Landrew. $100 for Landrew. Thank you, Landrew. We are living a face in the crowd and 7 days in May all at the same time. 47K Israeli companies bankrupt. Free Palestine. Thank you, Landrew. And see, Landrew.
I am Landrew.
Landrew is dead.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much. It's very kind of you, as always, sir. And see, Landrew did the same thing. He
Is it 47,000? Is it 47,000?
Yeah, I didn't think it was that many.
I've seen different things. Now we have a couple days off. I'm going to see if I can find a credible article on this subject.
Yeah, we will. We will find something on that. But if you notice, Landry did the same thing. He spaced out Israeli, free Palestine. Yeah, sometimes you got to do that.
Yo, listen, man. A lot of times, if I want to go back and forth with someone in the comment section on YouTube, it's not worth it because their standard for just making your comment unseeable, I can't even figure it out, man. I've had back and forth with people where I'm not cursing. There's nothing. Right. And they'll hide the comment. It's very weird.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy. Excuse me. Well, Miss Keaton, congratulations to you and the wife. Thank you very much.
She's going to be gone for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I probably won't even be totally gone for a couple of weeks. I'll probably do what Jimmy does sometimes, where he'll sit in the guest chair and just hang out for a stream, because we're all going to be home. That's the thing. We're all going to be home, and it's going to be one baby. At first, we had two, so this is going to seem like a piece of cake by comparison. I do have some news on that front. So, because Amanda's 37, that's considered moderate to high risk. It's recommended that we induce labor if she goes too far past her due date. So her due date is the 24th. If the baby does not come by the 26th, we're going to induce labor on the 26th, which means I think the latest that our little guy will come out is probably the 27th. So that means Tusker's in the hot seat for the 28th, since I obviously not doing that show. And then that week we will play by ear. I'm sure guest hosts will come in for probably at least the Tuesday, maybe the Thursday. And we'll play by ear. But it's not going to be a huge disruption, because really the preparation, like this show, this will probably end up running about maybe a 3-hour show. The real work of this show was yesterday and last night. I mean, right. the work is the prep. So, like, for me to set aside a couple hours and come in here and hang out on a stream is not that much work. The real work is going to be Russ putting everything together, and Jake. Shout out to Jake, who's been helping with exhibits, doing a fantastic job. So, yeah, I won't be gone that long. But that is coming soon, because if he's not out by the 26th, we're going to knock on the door and say, hey, enough is enough. No loitering. Got to come out.
Yeah. Move it along.
Move it along. Come on, we got to get this table cleared. We got to, yeah, exactly.
I mean, for me, it's not going to be that much prep, because it's mostly going to be GoPro footage of my kayak.
Yeah, he's going to do kayaking. He's going to do lifestyle advice. Cooking and kayaking.
That's it.
JM, thanks for the $2. Appreciate that. Jared Gamble, did you guys hear about Truth Social stock being shorted the day before the assassination attempt?
I have heard that. Didn't Jimmy send us that chart of Truth Social?
That puts Jim Cramer at the top of the suspect list.
Absolutely. He needs to be right about something.
Okay. Trump gets the DEI Secret Service team while Jill Biden gets the A team. That's the other thing. They had other Secret Service apparently covering her that day, from what I've seen. Ken Texican, it was a complete unadulterated shit show. The director needs to go. A culture of incompetence. Thank you, Ken Texican. Secret Service went from Praetorian Guard to Keystone Cops in one incident. Probably a lot more near misses. Pardon me, we don't know about.
See, that's what I'm saying. It might be that, very much like the CIA, we're given this very false impression in movies that they're a lot better at their job than they are.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. I think that is a good working theory. Sparky says, Butler police chief said they were there to direct traffic. Secret Service never contacted them, much less integrate them into event security. heard the interview yesterday. Yeah, that's another thing. That's fucked up. Apparently, it's standard practice to lean on the local law enforcement if and when you have to, and apparently you typically have to. Thank you, Sparky. Especially during the campaign season where the Secret Service does get spread a little thin because they have to cover multiple candidates, right? All right. Let's move on here. We got some more Super Chats and Rumble Rants to get to, but hey, here's a fun story. RFK got caught on the phone with Donald Trump. His son posts to social media what was supposed to be a private conversation. I'm a firm believer that these sorts of conversations should be had in public. Here's Trump giving his real opinion to my dad about vaccinating kids, which is obviously wrong. For if you want the truth about all of this, just visit the CDC and they'll give you everything you need to know. Yeah, everything you need to know.
Safe and effective.
Absolutely. This was the day after the assassination attempt. If I violated some kind of law in posting this, my only wish is to have Dr. Anthony Fauci as my cellmate. You know, okay, these Kennedys, I'm telling you. We did a whole segment about the Kennedys. What the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? I mean, I don't even know if I buy this. I don't even know if his kid posted it. I mean, it's just so crazy. This is not a cheap fake or somebody doing a Trump voice. This is the real deal. He could have picked a unity ticket. Instead, he picked JD, fire all the unvaccinated nurses, Vance. Two parties indivisible under Pfizer with liberty and justice for some. Okay, apparently, and this occurred to me as soon as I read that tweet, where JD Vance says, the tweet that JD Vance wrote was, hospitals are being overwhelmed as cases spike, and so why don't we fire all the unvaccinated nurses? That seemed like sarcasm, and apparently reporting is that it was sarcasm. We talked about this on RB Ham's show. Like, hey, if the hospitals are overwhelmed, why are you firing nurses?
Right.
He wasn't actually advocating for that. This is what I mean, man. These people, they're fucking liars. I'm sorry. These people are they're fucking liars.
Yeah. No, why don't you yell at us again for pointing out that the RFK campaign is a complete waste of time, geniuses?
Yeah.
When we did that segment, you got people, you make me sick. Yeah. You make me sick. When did they get to you? You fucking idiots. Come on, look at these clowns.
Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius. How do you know a thing? By what it does. What do the Kennedys do? Molest babysitters and kill wives.
Something's wrong with that whole system. And, it's the doctors you find. Remember I said,
Forgive the lack of volume here. Nothing we could do.
When you feed a baby, Bobby, a vaccination that has like 38 different vaccines, and it looks like it's meant for a horse, not a 10-pound or 20-pound baby. It looks like you should be giving a horse this. And do you ever see the size of it, right? It's this massive. And then you see the baby all of a sudden starting to change radically. I've seen it too many times. And then you hear that it doesn't have an impact, right? But you and I talked about that a long time ago. And anyway, I would love you to do stuff. And I think it'll be so good for you and so big for you. And we're going to win. We're going to win. We're way ahead of the guy. And, he's interesting. It was very nice, actually. He called me. And he said, how did you choose to move to the right? So I guess that's, people see, if I was looking straight on, right? He said, I said, I was just showing a chart. I didn't have to tell him the chart was on all the people pouring into our country, right? But, no, I just turned my head to show the chart. And something wrapped me. It felt like a giant, like the world's largest mosquito. And it was a bullet going around. What do they call that, an AR-15 or something? That was a big gun. Those are pretty tough guns, right?
It's a pretty tough gun. That guy is a fucking character, man. The guy is such a fucking character. He is a fucking, this guy's a character out of a sitcom. He gets shot in the ear from 150 yards away. It felt like a big mosquito bit me on the ear. And apparently it's an AR-15. It's a tough gun. Pretty tough gun.
That was like a Jerky Boys call.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a Jerky Boys call. That's exactly what it sounds like.
You get a few of those guns together. You get your little brats there. Make them men.
Yeah, exactly.
Give them a couple of those guns. Give them those guns, a couple of vaccines. They'll be ready for anything.
Exactly. All right, so before we go any further, it's funny. People mentioned earlier that Russ has taken over the show. So this is a little lesson in providing context for YouTube. This is context for YouTube. Whatever Trump said about the vaccines is not endorsed by this program. Go to the CDC and refer to them for any and all medical advice that you may seek. See, that's called a CYA.
Nor is it endorsed
move.
by any of our subsidiaries.
Yes, exactly. That's what we have to do to get that out of the way. All right, now that bookkeeping is done, I don't know if Trump apparently reporting was that Trump was trying to secure RFK's endorsement because RFK went to Milwaukee for the RNC. And it seemed like Trump was trying to butter him up there, maybe saying, look, this will be really good for you. We don't have that part of the call, but this will be good for you if you drop out and endorse me because we're going to win. And then RFK says, yeah, we're going to win. So the lib media is up in arms about that because they're saying that this proves that RFK is basically doing a rat fuck on the campaign and that this is all designed to prop up Trump. But RFK apparently did not give the endorsement. RFK tweets out, when President Trump called me, I was taping with an in-house videographer. I should have ordered the videographer to stop recording immediately. Yeah, that would have been a good idea. I am mortified that this was posted. I apologize to the president. Now,
you went to speaker, and you had a videographer there, but you didn't notice.
Yeah, why not take it off speaker? Exactly. At least take it off speaker.
Yeah,
that's a
you
good
were
point.
Unaware of that.
You didn't
catch that.
That is an excellent point. I did not even think of that. Why is he even on speakerphone?
With a videographer in
With
the
a
room.
videographer watching. Why would you put it on speaker? Why would you put it on speaker anyway? Like if it's just a phone call, why would it be on speaker? Somebody's filming you and you put it on speakerphone? I don't know. Maybe RFK is paranoid about the cancer and the put to the ear, whatever. But whatever. It's a short call. Yeah, why is it on speakerphone with a camera there?
I can see why some people are still hitching their star to that RFK wagon.
Yeah.
That was such a well-run operation. He is in no way a crazy, unpredictable asshole.
Yeah. So this was the day before this happened. Lots of rumors going around about my meeting this morning with President Trump. Our main topic was national unity, and I hope to meet with Democratic leaders about that as well. No, I am not dropping out of the race. Now, after this incident, after this leak, which was a day later, RFK's social media did go dark for about 24 hours. And Link Lauren, the kid who called into our show that one time, I think he worked with the RFK campaign for a while, tweeted out some speculation that because social media went dark, that he was planning to drop out because of the embarrassment of this and perhaps even endorse Trump. But since then, the RFK Twitter did post that he's on the ballot in North Carolina, under some party ballot line. I forget what it was. So apparently those rumors were squashed when he did, resurface on social media to announce ballot access in another state. Does not appear that he's dropping out of the race. But yeah, that is a massive fuck up at best. There's a theme of the show. I mean, what are you doing on speakerphone when there's a videographer rolling? I mean, what? I mean, it's just so crazy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He clearly wanted a record of it. Yeah. How did his son even get that clip?
Exactly.
Like these people are so crazy that he could be like, okay, I can't be seen putting this out, so you put it out. And you say you just wanted to get the truth out there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that could be.
And then he got the blowback. Oh no, that was an accident. This is the point we keep making with RFK. One thing, he's batshit. And for another, he's dishonest. Like you don't know what these people. They are aristocrats. They are a dissolute aristocracy. You got by the time you get to the third generation, it's like a fax of a copy of a clone. It's like inbreeding.
Yeah, well, I looked at the Kennedy thing. Looks like that could be it. But yeah, no, it is incredible. It is just an incredible thing that actually got out there. And the other thing that I have to say, too, from a campaign standpoint is, Trump running a much more strategic campaign this time. No doubt about it. Like, definitely.
Much more disciplined.
Much more disciplined. Like, he's trying to get that endorsement. He knows, okay, if we really want to lock this down, we get RFK's, 7 out of his 9 points in the polls or whatever he's got, pull them over to my side, that's checkmate. Like, there actually does seem to be a real strategy at work, which was not the case in 2016. 2016, he was just the Tasmanian devil. 2020, he had nothing. I mean, it was almost like he wasn't even running. It was just bizarre how impotent that campaign was. But this time, it's much more disciplined, much more focused, much more Machiavellian even. It was worth it to try for his endorsement because that puts it on ice. And it doesn't seem like it worked. It seemed like it kind of blew up in RFK's face a bit there. Trump is on there looking like Trump. Hey, it was like a mosquito came and bit me on the ear. It's just amazing. Amazing guy. One of a kind. Nothing says crumbling empire quite like this, says Perry Anderson. Thank you very much. You're exactly right about that. I hope the family of the person who was killed has a good lawyer. Oh, yeah, well, there's going to be. They will. I mean, I think they've already, if they don't have one already, they'll be able to afford one. They're already raising a ton of money for that. You would think they would employ drones with IR. Shouldn't be any excuse for this boondoggle. Well, no, that's another point that's been made. Where are the overhead helicopters?
Sure.
Where were the drone cameras? Yeah, where was any of that? Again, this is a pretty small, isolated area. There's not that much to watch out for. Talking about a handful of buildings in a rural area.
Well, it's true. Why don't they have drones?
Of course, yeah. No, it makes
most obvious thing in the world.
Of course. The analytical failure. Please, God, let Joe Biden win another term. He's so funny to listen to, and it will only get better with time. The levels of goofy are so anyway. Yes, thank you, analytical failure. Anyway. 20-year-olds just can't be stopped. Science. Thanks, Thomas Richardson. Appreciate that. Let's say here, why would an organization that works for the ruling president protect the political opposition? This poses the same obvious risk as the former policy of the second-place president candidate. Thank you. People are saying The Boys has a lot of sexual content. May not watch with parents. Well, my parents don't live with me, so I don't need to worry about that.
I mean... Yeah, kind of, but always in like a sick, depraved way. Not in a Skinamax way.
Not in a Skinamax way?
No.
Vance named his venture capital firm Narya a Tolkien reference. Peter Thiel also used a Tolkien reference with Palantir Tech and Mithril Capital.
Mithril Capital, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Too bad we can't have socialist Tolkien references. Thank you, Scorpionic Sag. Let's see here. Bonzo Beans, 20-minute inaction before shots fired. Not just a question of competence, also a question about motivation. Do they just not care? Do they hate their job? Thank you, Bonzo Beans. Okay. Let's see here. This has offered many iconic Trump-boosting moments. It's as if we were meant to play out this way, and Cheadle can't say she was following orders. Thank you. Sparky, local policeman, was hanging by both hands, so was unable to access his firearm. Thank you, Sparky. Okay, let's go. We got two more stories here. Let's go to Elon. Russell, do you want to do Elon?
Sure. Throw it up.
All right. So, Elon Musk formerly seemed on the fence. He seemed to be RFK curious as the general election it took shape, and obviously he launched Ron DeSantis's primary bid in that epic fail of a Spaces event.
Yes.
But in light of recent events, he is all in for Donald Trump in a pretty huge way. So here's this piece here.
All right. So, yeah, Elon is going all in on the Trump campaign. You can kind of see this coming. They've been kind of hanging out over the last few months, shooting off those AR-15s. Elon Musk has said he plans to commit around $45 million a month to a new super political action committee backing former President Donald Trump's presidential run, according to people familiar with the matter. Other backers of the group, called America PAC, include Palantir Technologies co-founder Joe Lonsdale, the Winklevoss twins, former U.S. Ambassador to Canada Kelly Craft, and her husband Joe Craft, who is chief executive of coal producer Alliance Resource Partners. I assumed the Winklevoss twins had, most of these Silicon Valley guys are for the very establishment Democrat Nancy Pelosi types who aren't going to mess with their money. So I'm a little surprised at that one.
The Israel thing has turned the tables on that. You got guys like Bill Ackman who are Democrats now saying they're going to support Trump. Like that has shaken that up a lot.
That's a good point. Formed in June, America PAC is focused on registering voters and persuading constituents to vote early and request mail-in ballots in swing states, according to one of the people. Oh, they learned their lesson with with Trump attacking early voting last time. The coalition assessed that the Democrats have historically had very robust get-out-the-vote campaigns and took note of the amounts of money that the Biden camp has dedicated to what are called on-the-ground efforts in swing states. America PAC will try to counter that. After this article published, Musk on X posted a humorous meme responding to it with the caption, "Fake news," and that's with a GNUS. Subsequently, he wrote, "Yeah," in response to a post that said Elon Musk went from being an Obama voter to pledging $180 million to elect DJT. The woke left really fucked up badly. Musk is currently the world's richest person with an estimated fortune exceeding $250 billion. The amount that he has said he plans to commit to America PAC is an extraordinary sum. While it can be difficult to trace the full scope of some political giving, the largest known donation of the 2024 election so far is $50 million given recently by the great-grandson of banker Thomas Mellon to a super PAC supporting Trump. He earned that money, right? America PAC has hired hundreds of employees for its efforts and has been registering voters, having conversations with constituents in swing states, and urging voters to request mail-in ballots, some of the people familiar with the matter said. According to a filing made on Monday, America PAC had $8.75 million in contributions for the 3-month period ending on June 30th. Musk had indicated that he planned to start his donations in July, one of the people said. Okay, so you get that? I mean, basically, he's increasing their funding by 500% in one fell swoop. Wow. In addition to Lonsdale, the Winklevoss, and the Crafts, the filing listed a number of other donors to America PAC, including several with close connections to Musk. Bloomberg News earlier said that Musk had donated to America PAC. The scale of his planned commitment hasn't been reported. Musk in March tweeted that he didn't intend to donate to either Trump or President Biden's campaigns. But the billionaire Tesla CEO has gotten closer to the former president in recent months. On Saturday, Musk formally endorsed Trump for president after a shooter attempted to assassinate the former president at a Pennsylvania rally. Quote, "I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery," Musk said on X. In a subsequent post, he said, "Last time America had a candidate this tough was Theodore Roosevelt." The Wall Street Journal reported in May that Musk and Trump had been talking frequently in recent months and were developing a friendly rapport, and that Musk was helping organize a data-driven project to prevent voter fraud that Trump was briefed on. The article said the two men had also discussed a possible advisory role for Musk in a potential second Trump administration, something Musk later denied. So the whole thing about him having been an Obama voter, if you remember, being the owner of the world's premier electric car company, Musk was a liberal darling. I was mentioning to you, I remember they did a puff piece, a big one, on one of the news magazine shows, saying that he was the inspiration to Tony Stark, something that would be impossible. I don't think he was born when Marvel first introduced Tony Stark. But that was the level of liberal corporate media kiss-assery of Elon Musk, of their absolute adoration and worship of him. This has happened with a lot of figures. We talked about this with Russell Brand. I've mentioned it with Riley Gaines, who, while she didn't express any particularly left views, has become really a full-on right-wing conservative commentator in a way that she did not start out that way. Naturally, when people are coming at you to cancel you, to destroy you, to ruin your life, well, you're not going to continue to support those people. And when you're talking about the world's richest man and you flipped him with your charm offensive, well, now you got a real problem, because he has more than fuck you money. He has fuck country money. And he can
you money.
He has destroy you money, and he can afford to give $45 million a month to this organization. What you're seeing, and I don't support this, and we've said this before, it is very sad that the country has been so given over to wealthy interests that the commoners like ourselves, we are really reduced to the role of peasants, in that we can only express our will through which of the aristocratic houses we align with. So there's a house of Musk, a house of Thiel, and then you've got a house of Soros, right? You've got a house of Zuckerberg, and you, for us mere peasants, we can only really express our will through the aristocrats that we pledge our loyalty to. That's a sick system.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's a sick system that allows for this. I mean, $45 million a month to a PAC. At what point does that violate the one person, one vote principle? Like, you have to ask yourself that question at a certain point, I think. And, the other significant part of this is that the shooting pushed Musk into this camp. This is a very high profile example of that, and a very significant one, given the amount of money that he's now able to pour into these super PACs. I mean, that's just massive. I mean, that's unbelievable. But that it had the political effect that I thought it would, which is put a lot of people who are hesitant about Trump into his column, not even because of Trump. And by the way, to make China Shill happy, I did look at the Caitlin Johnston versus Scott Ritter argument, where it was basically about the emotional response to the shooting. And what Scott Ritter said, I thought made a lot of sense. He's like, look, it doesn't matter what you feel about Trump. It wasn't just that Trump dodged a bullet that day. It's that America dodged a bullet that day. Because if that bullet were 1 inch over, you'd be in a civil war type situation now. And that is not good for America. That is a civil war is not a revolution. A civil war is the opposite. A civil war is the powers that be watching us fight amongst ourselves and destroy ourselves. And that is not good. And one of the reasons why I love the movie so much that we reviewed a few months back is because rather than try and make some clever political point, it just gave you a very stark vision of what it would actually look like if the country got to that point. It'd be very quiet, it'd be very fraught with tension every moment, everywhere you go. No one wants to live like that. No one wants to live like that. There is no revolutionary aspect to that. That is just a breakdown into violence and chaos, and we did avert that. And the fact that we averted that by 1 inch, I think put in a lot of people's mind, hey, you know what? The off-ramp to civil war is actually Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. Right.
I think it left a lot of people feeling that way, which obviously is good for him. Donald Trump is emerging as the unity candidate.
Exactly. Not because he deserves to be, but because of the circumstances.
Right.
Because of the circumstances. I mean, I think it had that effect. I think it had that effect on Elon, and I think it had that effect on a lot of people. All right. We got one more story, which, Russ, you're going to do this last one too, right? This is obviously much more in your wheelhouse than mine, although it is a good story. I do like it. Retired UAW member from Dearborn, Michigan, Jimmy Dore. I'm JD. It's going to be a thing now.
I realize this is going to be a problem.
It's going to be a problem because usually Jimmy Dore is the JD.
Yeah.
Jimmy Dore should change his name to JV Dore or something like that. Like VJ Dore. So and then JD Vance, yeah. JD pick
change his name to Jimmy Rubenstein. Really fuck with people.
Jimmy Rubenstein, JR. JD pick is brilliant. Those independents, fence sitters, and Rust Belt can now justify a vote for Trump. No, it made the most sense.
Exactly.
There's no doubt it made the most sense for him, and that speech really exemplified why. This is another thing that is evident now. Is, it's easy to overlook this because the circumstances are so aligning with him, but he's running a pretty flawless campaign. Like 2016, he did not run a good campaign. 2016, he put his foot in his mouth. Every other step he took was something where you thought, oh my God, this is going to crush him with the McCain. I like people who didn't get captured, and Megyn Kelly bleeding out of this and that, and refusing to disavow David Duke. Like, he made mistake after mistake. That shows you how unbelievably horrible a candidate Hillary was. That this guy did not run a good race that time. This time he did. You're not getting any of those sound bites this time. You notice he's not putting his foot in his mouth. You're not getting those 24 news cycle.
No, well, look
hysteria.
What he did.
Yeah.
Well, and that might partly be because of the David Duke thing, that he so quickly reacted to the Project 2025 thing. I don't know them. I never met them. I mean, I missed them well. I've heard things I don't know. Right. Immediately he distanced himself.
Yeah. No, he's not made. There's no errors. There's no what do they call it? Unforced errors. That's what I was looking for. Police Butler chief was pissed. Cheadle blamed Butler police. Yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah, pass the buck.
Pass the buck. There was rumors John David Hinckley and George H.W. Bush conspired to assassinate Reagan. Thank you, Michael Castillo. I've not looked into any of those theories very much, actually. How much longer before RFK eligibility ruled out? What do you mean in terms of his ballot access? I think he's plugging along okay. I mean, the calendar is getting late, but yeah, I mean, apparently he's not dropping out. It was a question for a while, but apparently that's not happening.
I mean, he says that now.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. Maybe
especially with him.
Yeah, especially with him. Maybe RFK can be Trump's AG. No one wanted to take that position when Trump was president before. Trump had to settle for useless Jeff Sessions. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, that's all speculation. I don't think it's in Trump's interest to give him anything if he doesn't drop out and endorse him. Like, I don't think he's going to get anything unless he does that. If he runs against him, he's not going anywhere in the administration.
I think you probably see Vivek in the administration.
Yeah.
I think he would like to have Tulsi in the security establishment if she would take it.
If she would take it. She probably would. I can't imagine she wouldn't.
I would imagine she would if he wanted to make her national security advisor or something.
Yeah. Alex Jones said it would have been an easy shot even for a 10-year-old Boy Scout. Yeah, I'm not a gun guy. Apparently people are saying that's not that far a shot.
Yeah, we don't know anything.
I believe you on that. I will have to defer on that question.
I mean, but a headshot, from what I understand, headshots are difficult even at close range. Like that's why cops are trained to aim for the body. To aim for the torso, it's the easiest spot to hit.
Interesting. Let's see here. Ranger Biker, Cheadle's overlords have her between a rock and a hard place. If she comes clean, she's fucked. She has no choice but to hope they make her whole for holding tight to the ridiculous narrative. Thank you for that, Ranger Biker. Appreciate that. Vic B. in Vermont. CNN reported this morning that Crooks posted on Steam, I will make my mark on July 13th. BS. Didn't another shooter also supposedly announce on Steam? I don't know what Steam is, but I did see some reporting.
Well, Steam is a gaming site.
Oh, see, I don't know. That's how uncool I am. No drones. Guess that DJI ban backfired. LOL. Chinese drone company. Best in my opinion. P.S. I had a Rumble rant last show that didn't get read. Was about Bree. Just busting your balls. No offense taken, I hope. No offense taken. Thank you, People's Infinite. Okay. All right. We got one more segment. Then we'll do the rest of our Super Chats and Rumble rants. And then we're out of here until tonight We should be back at some point tonight. We just have to figure out when. So stay tuned. But
Stay
Russell,
tuned.
Go ahead. This is a kind of a follow-up segment.
Okay, it is a follow-up. We did drop a video about Marvel's brilliant plan to alienate what remains of its audience by including a very controversial Mossad agent superhero, Sabra, that goes back to 1980, was originally introduced in an issue of the Hulk. So there was a lot of speculation because, by all accounts, this Captain America 4 has had enormous problems. Test screenings have been a disaster. The inside word is that they basically reshot this whole movie. So there was a lot of speculation that they'd say post October 7th, you know what? Maybe we don't need an Israeli Mossad agent superhero character in a movie that we also, in our wisdom, originally titled New World Order. These people really have their finger on the pulse over at Disney there.
You can't make that up.
So it looks like they went with the worst of all possible worlds by keeping the character and pissing off the Zionists by making her not Israeli anymore. So this article is very offended by it, but in terms of the facts, it had the best coverage. So keep in mind, it's an article that's very much representing the offense of the Jewish community. So people realized, this is why this story blew up this week. They realized the character was still in the movie because the trailer just dropped, and she's in it. That's her there with Anthony Mackie, the new Captain America. She has been described as the great Jewish superhero. Man, not by anyone I know. I don't know who described her that way. Launched in 1980 into Marvel Comics superhero universe, itself created by American Jews.
Superman,
Sabra,
too.
Superman also, yeah. Yeah, well, that was Stan Lee and Jack Kirby originally.
Right.
Itself created at Marvel, yeah. Superman, Simon and Schuster. Itself created by American Jews, Sabra was the first superhuman agent created to serve the Mossad. But this week, Marvel Studios was accused of stripping Sabra of her Israeli identity, instead making her a Russia-linked agent in the upcoming film Captain America: Brave New World. The creation of a new de-Zionized Sabra, played by Israeli actress Shira Haas, comes amid speculation that Marvel Studios has sought to avoid criticism from an audience bombarded by anti-Israel propaganda. Like I said, it's a slanted article. The move has left Jewish Marvel fans reeling, with one comic book historian accusing the film company of Jewish erasure. When Marvel Studios announced Haas's involvement in 2022, it was understood that she would play Sabra and that the character would keep her fictional real name, Ruth Bat Saraf. That name has stayed, but Marvel Studios pledged that it would take a new approach to Sabra in the film, due to open in U.S. cinemas on February 14th, 2025, has come to fruition. A description of the movie published on the company's website omits Bat Saraf's Israeli background and instead describes Haas's character as a Black Widow, a Marvel figure who is linked to the world of Russian secret intelligence. In her guise in Marvel Comics in the 1980s, Sabra was known for fighting for the state of Israel and was depicted fighting evil forces in Tel Aviv and by the Western Wall.
Well, in this movie, the original plot was apparently she had to block humanitarian aid from entering a war zone, and that just would not play well.
It didn't play with the test audiences.
No.
It didn't help that they screened it in Gaza originally.
Right.
Since the franchise announced Haas's involvement, it faces a backlash from supporters of the BDS movement. Campaigners have urged Marvel to drop the Emmy-nominated actress who starred in popular Netflix shows Shtisel and Unorthodox. In response to criticism, Marvel Studios said, quote, While our characters and stories are inspired by the comics, they are always freshly imagined for the screen and today's audience. How's that working out for you guys? What's the stock at now? Since the Hamas terror attack on Israel on October 7th, the backlash against Haas and the character has intensified. It is understood that early screen tests of the film by Marvel Studios, which has recently sought to increase diversity on screen, led to changes to scenes and central plot lines. Reports suggest that the changes to the Sabra character emerged from feedback from screen tests. In the recently released trailer, Israeli actress Haas can be seen alongside Anthony Mackie, who plays Captain America. He is the first black actor in history to play the role. In the original Marvel comics, Sabra's superpowers include superhuman strength, speed, a regenerative healing power, and the ability to charge others by transferring her life energy to them. The word Sabra is a Hebrew term used to describe someone who is native to Israel, and the character used her powers to fight against Palestinian terrorists after her son was killed in a bus attack. Wow. By the way, I don't think this article mentions it. Part of the controversy around the character's name is Sabra was the name of a town in, I believe it was the West Bank, where Christian Zionist allies of Israel massacred Palestinians while Israeli soldiers stood by. It's a very infamous incident in the region. So, that's like naming a superhero 9/11.
Yeah, right.
Building
Building 7.
Building 7. Comic book historian Sasha Kaplan, who is Jewish, said it does not specifically indicate that Ruth will be Russian. Quote, either way, the Jewish erasure happening at Marvel, which has also occurred to Moon Knight, will likely happen when other heroes like Ben Grimm, Billy Kaplan, and others join the Marvel comic universe. There remains, regardless, a double standard. Soviet soldiers, okay. Russian heroes, Chinese heroes, no problem. But how dare we have an Israeli superhero? The ultimate evil to those harassing Jews and boycotting Marvel. Disney, which owns Marvel Studios, did not reply to requests for comment. Okay, so I'm a kind of a nerd, but not nerdy enough to know some of these things. Billy Kaplan, I don't know what character that is. Ben Grimm is the Thing. If they made him Jewish, that's after my time. I was a big Fantastic Four fan growing up, and as with most things like this, they just never said. Like Seinfeld, they never said, right? It was kind of coded that way. Although Ben Grimm didn't particularly code that way. Could be, couldn't be. But that is very typical of Zionists to conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. Because they are uncomfortable and because test audiences are uncomfortable, having a Mossad Israeli agent as a superhero means they would take umbrage at the Thing being Jewish. Right. Those are not the same thing. That is the conflation Zionists always make, that this is inherently anti-Semitic. The character's still Jewish.
Right.
So how is it anti-Semitic? Clearly, it has to do with objection to the policies of the state of Israel, rightly so. The only way you can imagine that a character like this even wound up in the movie is for the same reason that Hollywood, for the most part, won't speak out for the Palestinian people. These guys never saw a human rights parade they didn't want to jump out in front of, and now they fall silent because Hollywood is very, very dominated by Jews. It just is from the beginning. Jews founded what we think of as the modern entertainment industry, and they are almost to a person in Hollywood Zionists. These are very powerful producers. These are very powerful agents. That is the only way you can understand why they would even, before October 7th, why you would put a Mossad agent superhero into a movie.
Of course.
That is clearly Zionist influence that led to that. And now they realize what kind of controversy they're going to stir up. So they're trying to split the difference. But it's the worst of all possible worlds. You might as well have just cut the character. You're not going to satisfy anyone that way.
Of course. Susan Sarandon got dropped by her agency after appearing at a Free Palestine rally. They have it in their head that it's them against the world. And when you have it in your head that it's you against the world, you act in such a way that unites the world in opposition to you, as, mathematically, most people oppose what's going on right now. And so what do? They cling to their power even more. But this is interesting because we did a segment about this way back. I think it was, it had to be 6-7 months ago at least. And then we saw a couple comments come in about it recently, and we figured it must be because now this news broke. So people are searching out the stuff again. And now this came up again. But look, obviously there's no way you can split the difference when it comes to these committed Zionists. They will not settle for half a loaf. They won't even settle for 95%. Look at the investment that AIPAC made this cycle, over $100 million. They already picked off Jamal Bowman. They're likely to pick off Cori Bush next. For what? I mean, look at how Congress is set up. Look at how pro-Israel they are. They will not allow for a modicum of dissent without trying to stamp it out. And of course, the reason for that is because their position is just nakedly immoral and racist. And in this context, and in previous contexts, but especially in the context of 2024, murderous, criminal on a scale that is just impossible to tolerate for the average person once they understand what's going on. And so what do you have to do? You have to use every avenue you can to try and muddy the waters and obscure people's understanding as best you can in every realm, including entertainment, which is, why so many of these movies, I mean, even setting the Israel issue aside, militarism makes its way into our entertainment in ways we don't even realize. Obviously, Hollywood, you have a lot of genre films that are made about this subject, but the Pentagon had to deal with the National Football League to overly jingoize and militarize the pregame shows and the halftime shows. Like that makes its influence known in ways that are almost subconscious to the average person.
Well, and I'll also say, look, I mean, Marvel is increasingly a dead brand for reasons having nothing to do with this. But if you were going to try to make the very difficult move of presenting a Captain America that's black and not Steve Rogers, how unfair to Anthony Mackie to saddle the movie with this? Because, look, I don't think I'd be going to see it anyway, given the quality of these films at this point. But I'm definitely going to call for a boycott of it when it comes up, and I'm sure a lot of people will. And it's going to be a very attractive object for a boycott because it's very difficult to know what to buy at the supermarket. It's very difficult to know exactly which products you need to boycott. This is going to be very big and very visible. Let's boycott this because it has the Israeli superhero in it. And that's very unfair. Like, you care so much about diversity. You want to present this different idea of what Captain America, this very symbolic, weighty figure in our national mythology. You want to present the idea that could be a black man. Why'd you saddle the movie with this controversy?
Yeah, exactly. Good point. And don't forget, folks, July 24th, next Wednesday, is the protest in D.C. for Netanyahu's speech or appearance. I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's making some sort of speech before Congress, I guess. So that's the 24th in Washington, D.C. There are lots of organizations who are bussing people down. So if you are within a couple 100 miles or so, I don't imagine it's going to be very difficult to get there. So make sure you get there. Info about, policeman hanging by both hands came from police chief, said he was boosted to roof by a colleague. Thank you. Courtesy Flush. The FBI was very quick to tell us nothing was on Thomas Crook's phone. Thank you, Courtesy Flush. Shinabilly. The Hulk had to teach Sabra about the value of Arab life. Hulk smash racism. Thank you, Shinabilly. Younger people today, says Sparky, don't realize that people hated Hillary when Bill was president. Her image was rehabbed for New York Senate. Yes, it was.
Yep.
And she did not win that Senate race by nearly the margin that Gore beat Bush. I think Al Gore beat George Bush in New York in 2000 by about 30 points. And I think she beat Lazio by about 12 or 13. So that just showed you her weakness right there.
She became a lot more popular after he got busted getting head.
Right.
She became a kind of sympathetic figure.
Yeah, that is true. If you ask what is going to happen in the future, we have no fucking idea. Sorry for using the word idea. Subcomandante Marcos of the Zapatistas just thought this was appropriate. Thank you, Ellen. By the way, check out Ellen Jimerson's latest article on our Substack. She wrote a very, very thorough piece about Biden's parole-in-place immigration order that I encourage you to all check out. So join our Substack, and it is top of the list there. And join our Substack anyway. You could join for free. Join our newsletter, because that's where we're going to blast out the announcement, given the exact logistics for tonight's stream. We're going to hopefully nail down a time. My guess is it's going to be about 9 o'clock. And hopefully we don't have to wait until 10 o'clock for Trump's speech, because last night they didn't bring Vance on until very late. I imagine they're going to try and get Trump on by 9.
I would think they want him on in prime time.
You want him on in prime time. Yeah. You don't want him on 10:30 at night. Okay, what do we got here? Bonzo Bean says there are 2 Steam platforms, a gaming hub and a blockchain-based social media platform. Thank you, Bonzo Beans. Appreciate that. All right, here's China Shill. 3 in a row from China Shill. Trump is the deep state pick. They sent an incompetent shooter. If he hits, they take him out. If he misses, Trump is defied and a shoe-in while sending a message to him. I don't buy that this isn't something they planned for. It wasn't a failed assassination. It was a failed assassination in service to narrative Trump's godhood. That said, I may disagree with you guys strongly on some things, but I know you are honest and love you guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Show. That's very nice.
Wait till I go to China. You're going to love me even more.
Yes, indeed. Captain America, Brave New World is a way less startling title. Yeah, that's true. It's not exactly, doesn't exactly put your mind at ease either. Sabra and her sidekick, Shadala, Power of Hummus. Yeah, right. Cedars, right? That's the alternative brand. That's what we're supposed to buy now.
I get Cedars, and they have Tribe at my,
that's the
supermarket.
Other one. Head-size targets easy from 130 meters. Yeah, that's what people are saying. That's what people are saying.
I'll take your word for it.
Take your word for it. Rip-A-Verse by Eric July is a black-centered independent comic series. Strong alternative to the mainstream. Interesting.
Yeah, listen, man. You think I just abuse Keaton with no consideration? The only reason I have not asked Eric July on the show is because Keaton's going to have nothing to say.
Well, now we're doing those pre-recorded interviews. Like, you could just interview him yourself. We'll drop it as its own thing.
I guess that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
The Rip-A-Verse, that guy raised $1 million, I think, on GoFundMe to launch that. It's been very successful. He's a black artist who didn't like the woke direction the comics were going in. It was just like, yeah, man, people just want comics. They don't need all this shit. And he's been very successful.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, why not just do it? I mean, you could do it yourself. And we could just drop it as a premiere thing.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
All right, folks. So like I said, join our Substack. Get on the newsletter for tonight. We'll have a link for later when we nail down a time. We're going to look into that today. And we will see you back here tonight for the Trump speech at the RNC. But that is all for now. So thank you guys very much for being here with us this morning. We appreciate you. And we will see you later tonight. And then back here on Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thanks to our YouTubers. Thanks to our Rumblers. Thanks to everybody for your Super Chats and Rumble Rants. Those are super helpful. We will see you all next time. Until we see you again, be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.